Okay, we're about to get started. Ooh, that's really loud. We're about to get started. If we can silence our cell phones, I see all the doors are closed. I appreciate that. Okay, good morning, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Friday, the 20th day of December in the year 2024. This is a budget hearing for the Department of Public Works with the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 10 a.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 10:12 a.m. I will just call out the members of the council who are present. Councilperson Baggiano, Councilperson Saleh,
Here.
and Council President Waterman.
Here.
Okay, we have three council members in attendance at 10:12 a.m. In addition, at its time of its preparation, notice of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Monday, December 9th, 2024 at 5:31 p.m. to the mayor, municipal council, business administrator, corporation council, and the local newspaper, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Before I turn it over to our chairperson and the council, I just wanted everyone to, we'll go around the room to introduce ourselves. You can just grab the mic, turn it on, say where you are, who you are and where you're from. We all know who you are, but people who are watching at home on the live stream may not know who you are. So we'll start with the director himself and his guest. I'm sorry, director. I don't think the mic is on. Got to turn it on the top. You can take it off the stand if you feel better. There you go.
Morning, Council President Waterman, Councilman Poggiano, Councilman Saleh, Greg Kears, Director of Emergency Management, Homeland Security, and the Department of Public Works.
Morning, my name is Andres Ramos and I'm the fiscal officer for DPW.
Danny Page-Knott, Finance Department.
Kyle Greaves, Director's Office of Finance.
Carmen Gandula, Director of Finance.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it over to, I'm going to be my best guess. I think it's going to still be Chairperson Saleh.
Well, thank you, Sean, and thank you, Director Kears and Andres, for coming here today to discuss the Department of Public Works budget. You guys are one of the largest budgets in the city, and we have a 2-hour time block for it. And you also you have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm just going to turn it over to you to get started with the presentation.
Thank you, Councilman. First of all, I'd like to say on behalf of 273 DPW employees, thank you for affording me this opportunity today to speak about our department. You know, many times the Department of Public Works is the first official government entity that many of our residents encounter, requesting services and things of that nature. And it's important to note that dedication that the employees have. Our division directors, I take great pride in the operations that they run. You know, we're responsible. The responsibilities are broad throughout the city, and we interact with pretty much every other department in the city. So what I'm going to do is, it's okay with you, we're going to start by going through some of our accomplishments for 2024. I believe everybody has copies of this document. So we'll start, for instance, with recycling. Our contracted vendor Sims Municipal Recycling collected 7,280 net tons of commingled waste from 24 to the present date. 7,280 net tons of plastic, glass, and cans were diverted from entering our ecosystem, leading to less pollution and dumping. Cardboard, our contractor All American Recycling collected 6,248.37 pounds net weight of cardboard and paper that was collected and diverted from entering the ecosystem. The Electronic Waste Division of Recycle has partnered with regional industries, collected over 7,500 pieces of electronic waste from January 24 to present. All American Recycle rebate to the city for Jersey City from August 24 amounted to $166,644.50. The collection of cardboard and paper. Table various community events citywide to provide residents with building blocks for environmental education, raising their global awareness and inspiring them to get involved with their communities. Vision of Recycling promotes the importance of recycling, composting food waste, and the effects of climate change and the environment with eco-friendly lessons, promotional literature, and giveaways. The Division of Recycling manages all janitorial employees, supplies, and cleanliness of all 26 city facilities. The Division of Recycling completed over 500 maintenance work orders throughout the city for buildings in 2024. And we also handling the issuance of the recycling containers. Also install commingled and cardboard recycling bins at the following buildings to increase recycling tonnage. Public Safety Headquarters, Annex 2, City Hall, Central Avenue Senior Center, 394 Central, the Animal Shelter, Public Safety Training Facility, Annex 1, 3, and 4, Municipal Justice Complex, a courthouse, car impound, recently opened, and a reentry program. Vision of Recycling believes that every resident plays a valuable role in the local and global environment. We strive to empower residents with the resources needed to reduce their environmental impact through the ease of access to food waste and receptacles. Diversion and repurposing of food waste is critical to reducing greenhouse gases, which are released from rotting foods and ultimately contribute to the effects of climate change. A bold and innovative response to the Food Waste and Emergency Acts on the immediate need for climate action in the state of New Jersey brings science education to the forefront of our daily lives. By increasing accessibility to composting, we are making significant strides in the community sustainability by encouraging participation of all walks of life. Going on, providing over 78 cubic yards of mature compost and mulch to all the Adopt-A-Lots community gardens throughout the city parks, neighborhood associations, and residents. Our cleanups throughout the city, Lady of Sorrow Community Cleanup, Ferris Triangle Park Cleanup, I Love Greenville Jersey City Association Cleanup, Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition Movement Cleanup, Heights Dog Lover Association, Hudson County Community College Student Cleanup, Hamilton Park Cleanup, Public Schools Cleanup, Sustainable JC Community Cleanup, PS5 Cleanup, Western Slope Cleanup, Audubon Park Cleanup, Dickinson High School Cleanup, Summit Avenue Cleanup. Vision of Recycling plays a vital role in ensuring the community cleanup events held in Jersey supplies and communication with city departments, neighborhood associations, or special improvement districts to operate safely and effectively. The process provides a coordinated approach to planning, reviewing, and on-site management of the community event. Moving on to our buildings and streets. With the approved purchase of thermoplastic machines, our painting crew were able to complete all crosswalks that needed retouching in 3 wards from April of 24 to October of 24. This machine and products allow for long-term painting of crosswalks. This consisted of over 700 crosswalks and about 300 fire hydrants, in addition to curbs and bus stops, in addition to the no parking requests that were filled. Basically, we purchased our own machine. We're looking to expand this capability by bringing in a second crew so we can cover even more areas. Our carpenters have taken the initiative to repurpose original wood floors, and instead of bringing in a vendor to put down new slats. The cost for one location was estimated at $35,000, and our carpenters instead stripped and restored the stained the floors. This project has taken cost to purchase the equipment with a 5 to 10 year life expectancy allowed us to do the job in-house for less than $10,000 for some of the before and after photos work they've done. And they've supplied you're taking a look at the, you see the old North District up there, how that was redone. That was really a good job. Below the stairs are a firehouse that failed state inspections. Get the repair, we were quoted a $10,000 fee. Our carpenters with materials from the shops repurposed the wood and installed new stairs. Painters come in, use the required paint. All work was done in-house during working hours. Tasks like this are complex and required skilled workers, but if we continue to provide them with the tools and support, this will be the outcome of their work. Our plumbers are regularly called for small objects such as clogged drains, toilets overflowing, the basic function of a plumber. However, you'll see in this instance, pictures you can see, slop sink that was completely rotted to require replacement. The cost was about $1,500. Plumbers were able to purchase cleaning equipment, chemicals to restore the sink. Project took 3 days, but it was handled while we were on shift. The outcome made it look brand new, and this was the idea that saved city funding. Other major goals we're looking to initiate with the bid process and approval of the council, we were able to obtain a new HVAC vendor to properly conduct preventive maintenance services. These efficient services allow us to save costs on major HVAC. What we had seen with the previous vendor, a lot of these systems were improperly maintained. As a result of that, we did a pretty thorough study of the facilities throughout the city, which moved us in the direction of bringing in a new company. And thanks to you, you approved the contract, and we're seeing significant savings already, and operational purposes are greatly improved. During the summer months of June 2024, September, we maximized the resources of our boiler operators, had to service all of our boilers citywide to ensure they would be up and running for the winter months. This is important and helped us be far prepared if there were any boilers requiring replacement or requiring major repairs. Filters changed in-house on all HVAC units instead of paying a vendor, so we utilized a supervisor who obtained the skills to replace all filters during the summer months. Vendor costs approximately $150 an hour, not including the material. We bought the material and had our staff handle the very normal working hours. Created an actual database of all services produced from the division, which justified each employee, the need for additional employees, and the turnaround time of completed assignments. Created and implemented this change each trade. Now we are properly monitoring all inventory, which is curbed unnecessary. Previous cost in this division was dealing with and had kept us from compliance with purchasing. Basically, the Director Fonseca has done a phenomenal job in totally reorganizing that operation. Anybody has been down in there, you can see it's 110% efficient, and the productivity has increased tremendously. Moving on to our forestry, we begin a block of pruning cycle using a contract with Rich's Tree Service. UMass recommended a 5-year pruning cycle for all trees is an achievable and reasonable goal for municipalities in the Northeast. Pruning on a cycle is a best management practice and superior to working based on solely public requests. Working what public request means that only people who make the request have trees worked on, meaning a lot of trees are neglected, and it's also reactive than rather than proactive. Proactive cycle maintain programs that are safe and less expensive over time. In concert with block pruning cycle implementation, we've worked using the 2023 tree inventory the city has completed by Davy Resources Group to work based on an arborist assessed tree assessment. This allows us to prioritize the most risk hazardous trees first. As of 2024, all of our high risk work and a lot of the moderate risk work has already been completed. We've already seen fewer emergency tree incidents arise out of the air, likely as a result with the work beginning in 2023. We found, identified, and attested and confirmed the presence of serious disease called bacterial leaf scorch in Jersey City. This will have a serious ramification moving forward. While this sounds bad, catching it and knowing is developing a problem will allow us to best manage it. We've brought in, some time ago, we brought in a new forester who's been nothing short of spectacular. There again, he was working for the city of New York. He was a Jersey City resident when we advertised the position. He came over and he's done a great job, but there again, we could use additional folks down there to assist with this.
So you need additional folks for the forestry department.
Yeah,
Does anyone have questions?
Greg, people are calling about trees. Like I have a tree that's 5 stories high in front of my house. I've been asking for 3 years for them to cut it back. They came along and they cut a couple of branches off. It's like,
Well, unfortunately, what we find is that many trees that are healthy, legally, they can't be cut down.
not cut down, but they should be. God, if the tree ever came down, it'll kill
What I will
somebody.
say is that this forester is very well, very knowledgeable in what can and can't be done. And if a tree is damaged or sick, it falls within the guidelines of laws, they'll certainly take it down. What they try to do is save most of the trees. I think a lot of the problems we've experienced is that years back, many trees that were planted were really not applicable to the urban environment. And, there again, we're now dealing with, trees that somewhere are 50, 70, 100 years old that are healthy. And I think the feeling is that they would rather try and trim them back as much as possible or to stay within the legal guidelines as opposed to take.
What we're talking about basically is cutting the tops down from 5 stories up and taking them down because
If you send me the information, Rich, I'll
Send it to the city,
and
the forestry,
something,
and,
something they can do.
that and lifting sidewalks, they everybody's complaining their sidewalks are being lifted by these trees and nothing's being done.
Well, that's a whole issue. You know, obviously by your ordinance, the sidewalks are the responsibility of the homeowner.
No, I had an ordinance, thing passed. If the city puts the trees there, the sidewalks belong actually to the city. We have no control over it. It's the city's responsibility.
Well, with that being said, I know Councilman Gilmore had brought this up at one of the meetings, and the issue with that is that, first of all, the costs associated with replacing sidewalks, we would literally have to hire a contract to do that citywide. I don't know whether that's something that, that expense we want to take on at this point. Talking about a tremendous amount of money, tremendous amount.
You said we're on a block pruning cycle with Rich Tree Services, and what block or how does that go? Can you explain? Is it like by ward? Is it by like certain area in each ward and you bounce
They
around?
did a complete analysis of the tree canopy citywide. And obviously, we only have, I believe it's 12 employees presently assigned to forestry, which would be a task that would take years just to complete, probably would. So what we do is we hire an outside contractor, and their responsibility is maintaining the trees according to standards. And it's done usually by ward by ward.
Do they give you a list of like
We can,
oh, yeah.
I can get that for you, Council, if you like.
Yeah, also, yeah, you could bring the mic closer just because it's,
Okay. Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
speak softly and carry a big stick, Director.
If you'd like to see that, I'll speak to Mike and, we'll come up with a list where they are presently are and we're moving forward. But they're responsible for any citywide, problems that, that they find.
So you spoke about the HVAC systems. Do you know how many HVAC systems we have across the city?
Well, we have roughly 24 properties, 53, if you count lots and things like that. But what we've encountered as of late is that a lot of these are old facilities, and therefore the life cycle of the equipment is either here or is rapidly approaching. Unfortunately, many of these were not maintained to the specifications they should have been. When we bought this new company in, part of the thing was to do an analysis of the properties. And that's resulted in, maintenance that had never been performed in a timely fashion now being performed. We have 2 locations that we are presently awaiting funding for that require full replacement of the HVAC systems. One is the senior center on the old senior center on Patterson Street, and the other one is the animal impound facility. So close to $120 some odd thousand just on those 2 locations alone. I mean, they've been able to keep them running, but like anything else, they have a life expectancy. Some of these things are 20, 25, 30 years old by replacement. So spending more trying to fix them as opposed to replacing. You get something more, it's a lot more energy efficient, and it's going to do the job a lot cheaper. Once we get the identified funding for that, we'll be replacing those systems.
For the firehouse on Palisade and Congress, did they end up finishing the air conditioning system?
On the firehouse, yes, they've done that. Actually, we had a meeting yesterday with Chief Hart of Chief Johnson's office. That was on our to-do list. There's an issue up there with a separate entity with the controls of the system.
Okay.
So Director Fonseca and myself met with them yesterday, and they'll be addressing that. But the system in question was replaced.
Okay. Any other questions? You can proceed, Director.
Okay. Administrative services, basically, one of the big goals that we accomplished was the upgrade of the security system here in City Hall. Unfortunately, over the years, we've seen trends where houses of city government are vulnerable. There are security issues. One of the things that we instituted, in one of my other roles is the certified protection professional and certified domestic preparedness planner. So we did a complete analysis of the previous security and found it to be not adequate enough to protect, all of the entities involved in City Hall. So we basically come up with a new visitor management system, which is enhanced security, comprehensive visitor identification and monitoring, prevents unauthorized access. streamlined check-in process and real-time visitor tracking to ensure seamless management, fostered safety and confidence. A safer environment promotes trust and confidence for all working and visiting City Hall. And President Waterman, I got an email from Phil Orphanides yesterday regarding the active shooter thing you're looking at.
Yeah,
I spoke to Deputy Chief Daly on the PD side. He handles the training. So that'll be forth. I believe Director Moody's going to reach out for you to come up with a convenient time. But after we had the unfortunate events back in 2019 with the active shooter, I did it was pretty intense, a 2-day course where we got everybody in the annex trained. It was over 300 employees, just to bring them up. And it's a pretty awareness type program. It's called Run, Hide, Fight. It's recognized by the federal government. It's authored under FEMA. And, just people, so they have an awareness of what they should or shouldn't do in these type of events. But I did put that on Chief Daly's radar, and then he was going to speak with Director Moody, and then she was going to reach out.
thank you, thank you. And you know what too, though, what would be a good thing too, though, like if we have a fire drill, as long as I've been here, I've never had one.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's something that's handled through fire prevention. I remember being here at a meeting, and we did actually have a fire alarm. Fortunately, it was kind of like a good opportunity to determine what the capability was, and fortunately, everybody left the building. I mean, we can't plan emergencies, and I think what they shoot, we have doing something similar down in the annex where, you try and get people aware to what they should or shouldn't do. Many times these alarms go off and people just like, I'm busy.
Right.
No, but you have an obligation, for self-preservation, and legally, you have to vacate the building when they come out. But these are all things I think that, moving forward that we'll work with fire prevention and get that back on track.
And based on our system here, like there's no one PA system that can go through the whole building. Like if there is a fire and somebody get on and say, this is real, this is not a tester. I
Right.
forgot the word they use, you know what I mean? But this is a real drill.
Yeah.
There's no system that can go through the whole city hall, but can we create a system to go to each department?
Like a PA type system.
Right.
Yeah, what the perfect scenario would be to have building captains on each floor and a central desk, which would be, our main desk downstairs there. I know there was some conversation adding the capability that we presently have in the phone system.
Yeah.
For an intercom type thing. And I believe that was, the BA was taking that under, consideration. I think it's, there again, it's more of a software type thing.
Yeah.
See if they could do that. But that was raised when we did the implementation of some of it. It was on the list that we had during the implementation of some of the security things.
Thank
you. The updated security infrastructure provides a safer environment, fostering confidence in one court. We also, the other thing we did was similar operation in the courthouse. What we found that we would challenge where the systems that were in place were from the original date of the opening of the building. And over time, threats have increased for government facilities.
Right.
Unfortunately, the bad people come up with ways to get around security systems. So there again, we had to do a complete update of security up in the courthouse. It was quite expensive, but there again, you can't match expense against human life. So we did it in 2 phases. We did the upgrade of a similar type system that you see here in City Hall, additional cameras and things like that. And I know on the PD side, there was some increased personnel put up there. So, we try and monitor situations that's, trending throughout the country, and then, get out in front of it, but there again, all of this costs money. Budget constraints, not only here, but throughout the whole country. We do the best we can with what we have. But moving forward, I know that it's a main concern of the mayor, the BA, that we take these into consideration. We've done a tremendous amount of with our camera system, with
Mhm.
over 900 cameras citywide. And I continue to get the federal funding to supplement a lot of these cameras. We're actually looking at, I got a list now, Councilman, it's pretty robust in your ward.
Yes,
So I mean, we
please.
try and, get them citywide using CompStat and tell people to, we're having issues here, so we try and get cameras. It's expensive. A new location is approximately $130,000. We get somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 a year, so we try to maximize where we can, where we get the most bang for our buck, so to speak. But I just got the list from John Sabo yesterday, so we'll be going over that for future.
I know Pershing Field is an issue, and we just opened up Mosquito Park, and
Yeah, we have cameras. I added some up there. Way back when Councilman Yudden had asked me to help with getting some cameras up in certain areas up there. So we were able to get that funded. All of the funding, obviously, we have to come up with locations. That requires what they call an investment justification. It's got to be approved by the state and then sent down to the Fed. So it's their money. They want to have a say as to how it's spent, where it's utilized. But fortunately, they've been pretty good.
Me ex finance, I know we have like capital improvement dollars. And so often we just, do a lot for just, like we say, parks to remodel them or bring them up. Isn't there a way that we can also include security in that? Can we include security in that capital fund? Because it's like I'm hearing what the director's saying. I know he's been going out for grants to do the best he can to cut costs. But because security is like an issue throughout the whole country now, shouldn't that be one of our priorities? It's good for us to remodel a park, but what good is it if the park ain't secure?
Yeah, a permissible usage would be like installing security cameras, the machinery and everything, like as long as it has a useful life of 5 years, which most of the stuff does. We have used capital money in the past for CCTV installations and things of that nature, so it's definitely doable. And like I mentioned yesterday, we're working on repurposing some dollars from old projects, and the goal is to have it for general miscellaneous improvements to all buildings, and we can kind of, move our funding as things come up, rather than just tying ourselves to one project at a time. So it's definitely something that we could work on.
Okay, thank you.
But just mentioning that too, and I think what we've been doing is basing a lot of our camera placement. We're using an intelligence-based policing on the police side, which helps us tremendously because you put the assets where it's needed the most, and it is playing a significant role in the detection of crime, identifying offenders, and also successful prosecution. So the camera system has paid off tremendously. And, the goal right now, I'm determining availability of funding to purchase the portable cameras, the mobile cameras, which we can deploy pretty much immediately. If there's an issue that's occurring at any location in the city, we try and get them out as quickly as possible. The problem was that the previous vendor, there was an issue with some of the cameras they were using, so they were eliminated from the federal system for using federal dollars. But we've worked in an agreement out with, or a cooperative agreement with our current camera vendor, where they're actually branching out and they are entering into a co-op with another vendor to build a trailer. So, and the best thing about these is that they'll be directly networked into our network. So any availability of viewing wouldn't require a password or anything like that. Once we deploy the camera, it's immediately viewing us. We're looking forward to try and get, I think, 4 or 5 of them out of this funding cycle. And then with the upcoming FIFA games in 2026, Jersey City is going to play a huge portion of that, as many of the teams will be staying in our hotels. Park, there's a major 30-day event down there, so we'll be working with the state and feds to, maximize security capabilities both on our end and with them. And there again, I'm going to dedicate money for that type of equipment for next funding cycle. We've coordinated the execution relocation of employees and assets from the old senior citizen center to the new senior citizen center. The effort included organizing logistics for safe and efficient transfer of all office equipment, furniture, and essential materials, ensuring minimal disruption of daily operations. Collaborated with staff and external vendors to achieve a seamless transition, allowing the new senior center to become fully operational. And successfully coordinated executed the relocation of employees from 555 State Route 440 to 75 Bishop Street. We managed shared services agreement between the Jersey City BOE, Board of Education, Jersey City Redevelopment, Jersey City Housing, various service, fueling of vehicles, provided container dumpster refills, filling potholes and other surface improvements, tree maintenance, invoicing and contacting for reimbursement, manage relationships with government agencies and their government and senior representatives for New Jersey Transit, Conrail, Verizon, Comcast, Port Authority, NJDOT, New Jersey Turnpike regarding city issues, oversee and manage vendors' contracts, including Canon, Gateway Group, Nelson Westerberg Moving Company, Avid Exchange, Millennium Communications, Miron Technologies, PSE&G Quadrant, Racial Michelle Gas and Diesel Fuel, Universal Vending, WB Mason, Creating Outdoors, Cintas, UPS, Johnson Business Products, Dynamic Digital, One-Screen Temperature Scanners, and Value Payment Credit Card System. Coordinate the management of unarmed and armed security guards provided by the Gateway to various city buildings. Organize and ran point at the Keep American Beautiful Great Jersey City cleanup, resulting in 14 tons of garbage being collected citywide. Reorganize the administrative service staff structure to better align with operational demands for the city. Initiatives include coordinating with the BA, Human Resources, Mayor's Chief of Staff, DPW Director, mailroom messengers, front desk, and dispatch officers to ensuring adequate coverage of work duties by reallocating assets and streamlining workflows towards responsive to the city needs. A couple of other points I'd just like to make. One of the things that I've mentioned this year to year is that out of our budget, we pay approximately $13 million, and that's based on a legislation that was passed back in 2020 as to the solid waste management. And recently, we were notified to that $13 million, there'll be a 2% increase, which is a tremendous amount of money. Unfortunately, it's the only mechanism in place. Back when this legislation was passed, this was as a result of management of the solid waste throughout the state. And for our purposes, the Hudson County Improvement Authority was a designated agency. So I just think that's something you should be aware of. Out of our total budget, $49 million, I believe was the request, 13 million plus the 2% is part of that. It's a big chunk.
Is that for regional industries you're talking about? Or?
No, that's separate. That's the garbage contract is a separate entity. This is basically our solid waste is how it's disposed of.
Yeah.
That is
For the city.
where it has to go. And the mechanism in place to ensure that we're in compliance with all state regulations and things like that. So there's a lot of different, hidden fees and things like that that I want to make sure you're aware of that contribute to a large portion of the budget. And like everything else, our budget is also impacted by contractual raises. Obviously, I believe the one union has not settled yet, which eventually I guess will, result in additional funding. And, every service that we provide, most part requires some type of equipment. And like everybody else, we've seen tremendous increases. I had a conversation with Jim Lavero, our DPW automotive director. For instance, a water pump, pre-COVID, maybe it costs us $70 or $80. That's water pump now in some instances is costing us $200. Everything has gone up tremendously.
We have so union contracts coming up next year. We have the regional contract coming up next year. There's so many things I want to say on this topic.
I knew you were going to ask that question. I had this conversation a little while ago.
It's just horrible. It's real, like what they do, and the people you work with that are supervisory in nature, they help, and they try to mitigate things, but on the ground, it's like a war zone, a trash war zone, and it's like they're throwing the trash like they're in the Olympics, and it has. It has gotten slightly better, but it's not good enough for us to justify a renewal. Like, we have to like plan for something else. I don't know. It's not, if we do a ward based or every 2 wards a RFP for that, like maybe regional can't do the whole city, especially the recycling night. Recycling night is just like, it's a war zone. It's especially on a windy day. And I know part of that is the responsibility of like the homeowners and the residents, but it's really difficult for them to do what they're doing and for us to continue to, do what we're doing. Like, the definition of insanity is like keep doing the same thing. And, I tried to give them a chance, but I just want to voice my frustrations and see if there's a contingency plan for trash pickup, recycling, something to help with the mitigation of the streets.
We actually looked at, North had
Sanitation
hybrid
inspectors.
plan
Sorry.
where it was kind of like a, cooperative. Some was done internally and they used a vendor. Even if we did a, so-called hybrid type operation, I think the startup cost would be probably 14 or 15 million dollars just to purchase the equipment. This is
Mhm.
related to recycling end. And then, we've had numerous meetings with the company. I now have Rich Venezia, who is the full-time guy that handles the complaints. And believe me, I get calls from all of the
Yeah.
members of the council, and 90% of the calls I get is related to that trash compact as contract. The contract that is coming up for renewal, I believe it's next year.
Mhm.
But I think the problem's going to be, the availability of another company to bid on it. They kind of, it's kind of like they self-regulate. I don't go to your territory and you don't go to mine. So chances are, and there again, I could be off base on it, that we may have the only respondent to the contract being regional because of the capabilities. I think a lot of it has to do with the overnight component, and there's no way in heck that we could ever do daytime collections. The traffic would not permit it.
Yeah.
It just would be
Mhm.
totally prohibitive. But the other problem I think they have is that maintaining employees. There's a
Yeah.
huge turnover. And from what regional tells us, they've raised their starting salaries, but I think the fact that they're pretty much at-will employees, there's
Oh.
really no union protection or anything like that. That's a problem. I mean, I've checked them at night myself, where I've seen you have a driver and a helper, where at normal pickup times they should have at least two additional people on the truck to assist, but that's not the case. So that obviously takes longer to get the pickup done. We also have a problem with a lot of residents using the sidewalk waste receptacles for
Mhm.
personal garbage. Where our people go out, we'll empty them. Sometimes we're doing this 2 and 3 times a day. So it's a headache. It's a major headache. But moving forward, I mean, these are all things I think when the RFP goes out, all your concerns has to be in there. And then it's kind of like a wait and see what type of respondents we get back. At this point, taking it on as a city operation, it would require a tremendous amount of money.
Mhm.
There again, we're dealing with the same pool of people that, would be interested in doing that type of work.
Yeah.
I think the salaries obviously is an issue.
Mhm.
So,
We got to wean ourselves off from regional. I just don't feel like they're cutting the mustard here, and they should either upgrade their equipment so that the trash truck, the garbage truck picks up the garbage and puts it on their own,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
right? You've seen it in other like
Mhm.
civilized countries, and they should upgrade their equipment, or they should upgrade their training. They should do something that is different than what the status quo is.
That's why I say, I think when we start the RFP process, then, it might be good to hear your individual concerns so that can be included, something like that. I've seen that, the mechanical trucks where they actually pick it up. There's really no human component, it's done from the driver's seat and, I guess it works in some smaller areas. The other problem we have is that we have many times the trucks are not able to access the areas because of parking issues.
Yeah.
People, park illegally, the truck can't effectively get down to pick the garbage up, which creates more of a time problem. So they're supposed to be in and out of here in a certain period of time. But many times we find them on the street during the height of the rush hour, with school buses and everything else. So it only creates more problems. Getting back to when we start the RFP process, I think, it'd be a good idea to get your concerns and get that included. If it's something that they can do and it would work, we should certainly look at it.
The sanitation inspectors, I know that you had made the recommendation a few years back. Like, have we made any progress on?
No, I think what I'd like to do is that we've mentioned this in the past. There's two things to look at. Having our own in-house sanitation inspectors is good for two reasons. When, for instance, if you call up and you want a property ordered up or you want a lot cleaned, what we have to do is make that notification to Joe Barrow and his folks. And most of the time, they're pretty responsive. They'll get on it right away, but there's a gap. So when we had our own in-house inspectors, we would, if they run out of recycling, actually there and sanitation, where we could send them immediately there, they would issue the violation and we could immediately take action. So, we tried, Joe and his crew works pretty good with us, but I think there's also, in my opinion, based on the amount of complaints we get related to sanitation, there's a revenue loss there, where if people who are habitual offenders are not receiving those summonses, there's a loss of revenue. And I think the best way to get people to compliance is to cite them. Oh, really? I mean, it's unfortunate, but on what I've seen is that people years ago, they would take pride and clean up their area, clean up this. You don't see that anymore. They'll be walking down the street with a wrapper and just throw it in the street. And, another thing we look to do is Director Dublin had identified some funding sources that we could potentially bring back, either seasonal or part-time, more or less like litter patrols, throughout the city. I know that's a big thing, especially in the commercial areas. So that's something we'd like to, introduce. I've had discussions with the VA on it. He seemed pretty, enthusiastic about it. So moving forward, I think we're looking to do that, in this next cycle.
Greg, you can tell when it's garbage night on my block. All you gotta do is follow the garbage laid in the street. They drop all over the street. They don't bother picking up. Go down to North Carolina, where my sons are. They drop a piece of paper. They have a machine that comes out, picks up the garbage cans. People aren't doing it. A piece of paper falls on the floor. The driver gets out and picks it up. Here, they just leave the garbage in the street. It's a shame.
Yeah, that's what Councilman Saleh had. I mean, if that's something that's feasibly possible, if that should be included in the RFP, that as opposed to having, it's got to save them money also if they have that type of equipment, where I would imagine it would require a change of containers.
Yeah.
For city residents, that the areas that I've seen them in, it's mostly smaller areas where it's a specialized container and it's a side pickup on the truck. I mean, these are all things that we should be able to, fine tune before the RFP is put out, and then go from there.
So can we, could you document this? Can we at least try to start with 2 sanitation workers? Inspectors for DPW. I know there's been a conversation before. Last year was a conversation, but it seemed like the sanitation department is with Regency is not improving. So maybe we need to just try the inspectors to go behind Regency in some way to see if that will improve, because based on what I'm hearing too, they have like some type of respect for companies, you're saying. So if we do put out an RFP, the only person that may apply is Regency, because the other companies are not going to apply because they feel like Regency is the one that dominates this area.
Yeah,
Based on what I heard you say. So then it's like, then what can we do to improve, our trash pickup? Because they're going to apply again. If what you're saying is true and the industry, they're going to be the only ones that apply again. So what can we do to pretty much help our residents? If getting us another, 2 inspectors in your department again, we need to go back to it because it's not helping. We're missing money, you know, people who are abusive is increased, is not decreased. They are abusers, you know, and they need to be kind of disciplined to stop doing it. And just the mere fact that you're saying that when the trucks go down certain blocks, there's double parking, then we need police, you know, to be able to do some type of following too, or the inspectors. Because I'm telling you, throughout this whole city, this city is growing so rapidly, the behavior is crazy. That's what I'm saying. And until we start putting enforcement in to change people's behavior, it's not going to improve the city. It's not. Our garbage, our trash pickup is getting worse. It's not getting better because people behavior. People are double parking because they can't find no parking. I get that. There's issues there, but people got 5 cars to a family. That's something we got to own up to too. It's not like one house got 1 car. That's over. You know, everybody's driving, even though we're trying to put more bikes on the street, everybody's still driving. We got cars that you just plug in with a battery, so it's saving on pollution. You thought we was going to do something different, but I see it's still increasing. So I'm saying, let's try what we keep hearing the director keep saying every time he comes to these budget hearings. Let's try giving them the inspectors. That's all. I just want that down. So when we have a conversation later, we remember it. That's all.
What's stopping us from getting sanitation inspectors? I mean,
Sorry, say that again?
what's stopping us or preventing us from getting sanitation inspectors? Just because the dumping situation at the city receptacles is out of control, like, you know, the issues that we've seen with the trash, you know, sans enforcement. Without the enforcement, it's, you know, it's not getting better, and we need to have people. And I know we have some enforcement mechanism already, but I'm saying in this situation, there should be some redundancy in the, you know, the compliance and the enforcement. Just, you have your team, code enforcement has their team, and like, you guys cover what the other can't.
Right. I think, and it's somewhat research that we've done on it. There again, I know Director Dublin does a great job in a lot of the grants. Putting this through horror operation / sanitation, many of the salaries I think would be eligible on the grant, you know, as long as we can show. The problem that we're having is to the council president's point, the city is growing leaps and bounds, you know, and unfortunately, we find many of the new businesses really aren't, you know, being cooperative when it comes to, you know, sanitation. So having the inspectors that are out there specifically for sanitation violations, I think will, number one, send the message, you know, and I mean, we're not out there to hurt people, but I think you also have to get them to a point where they're going to be in compliance, you know, because a lot of it comes down to where people are using the public trash can, which obviously is for litter and things like that, as personal garbage disposal, so to speak, you know, and that's.
Come up by Dickinson at lunchtime. You have a garbage can out in the street at Chestnut and Newark Avenue. You have 10 kids here eating sandwiches from the stores. The garbage can is right here. They take the bottles, throw them in the street. They take the garbage, they throw it on the side. They throw it on. They don't even. They're standing right next to the garbage can. They don't use it. They throw it in the street, and the streets are filthy. Not.
We find the schools. I don't know.
Mr. Director.
Sorry, I'll let you.
I guess to just recap, Council President, yeah, we can talk about adding sanitation inspectors back to the team. But I think I just want to remind everyone that a few years ago, we coordinated these services under quality of life.
I know. We can do both.
Yep, no. So later this afternoon, they'll be here, so we'll bring up that point again for it to be discussed.
Correct.
And then Councilman Saleh, I think, in just recapping, there's nothing preventing us from hiring, right? Finance will take the budget request. I think just hearing 2, 3, 4, I think it's more about coordination, scheduling, and making sure that what the director's going to issue out in his RFP makes sense, because I do not think, Director Curish, you put in a request for sanitation directors in your budget.
Have it.
You haven't. So
Mm.
I think so if we go back to what we tried to, with the consolidation a few years ago, as you noted that we're growing and things of that nature, things change, there probably needs to be a revisiting of this, maybe in a deeper dive in a separate meeting about coordinating what's happening on the enforcement side, what's happening and what they're seeing in the department level, and then we'll figure out, in preparation for next year's budget, what seems accurate and makes sense. So we don't have that request now from them, but
Mhm.
something to be discussed, I think, later on this afternoon. When
Yeah.
the quality of director is here.
Yeah, I just wanted it down so we can have that conversation, because I don't know why we think we can't do both. A city growing like this is like, we only do this and that's it. But with a city growing as rapid as it growing, they're gonna need their own inspectors too, and quality of life still works too.
Yeah.
It's not like you just taking it away. That's my whole point. It seemed like once we create something, oh, it all has to go there. No, you can have that and you can have this. That's the problem, I think, with this city too. We just have one thing, not realizing we need to have more than one thing, and it's okay. It's really okay, because we're just growing too fast. We're growing fast, and people behavior is just, it's just not pleasant all the time. It's not. Our city is, getting a lot of trash, just like,
I don't,
said. The
You know,
kids are
too,
not
it's-
even
it's
trained
basic-
to throw garbage in the garbage can.
Your office,
I'm like, oh my God, but that's something else, so.
I would venture to say that your offices receive the majority of complaints are quality of life related.
Yeah.
So having a redundant type operation, if you remember what I mentioned earlier, one of the things we looked at is the possibility of hiring part-timers or seasonal
Mhm.
to do the litter patrols. And then
Mhm.
following up would be the sanitation inspectors, where if they see these type of instances, as Richard described, then they take enforcement action.
Yeah.
It's just.
Greg, I went over to a bunch of the kids on the corner, watching them throw the garbage in the street. I said, I live here, would pick the stuff up. You know what they did? They all laughed. They thought it was funny and basically told me to go to hell.
I went to
Shame.
tickets, and so the teachers used to be out there, telling if you throw that in the garbage, if you don't throw that in the garbage, they're gonna do serve detention, but
Yeah.
Correct.
changing time.
we should talk to the public school system and, if they're caught littering, they have to do 10 hours extra of community service or something.
It's a
I don't-
concerted effort.
All
of
be in
you know,
school.
All concerned.
Yeah.
Well, it's a conversation. That's what we see. It's a conversation that we need to have to to come out of the box thinking. That's all.
I also,
It's changed. That's it.
I just want to say on the record, I don't know if regional has the votes for the next year's contract. And so they really need to step up their game because it's not good. I can't in good conscience vote for them, if the renewal is coming up. And I just want to raise that red flag right now so that city has a contingency plan. We have, that they're on notice and they got to improve. So even if they're only the only game in town, like I'm not gonna vote for them. So we have to figure something out. So you've done a phenomenal job, Director. I just want you to know every time I brought an issue up, you've been able to mitigate it. You're like I swear to God, you're lightning fast every time. And it's not you, but it's what we're dealing with on the street. So
We try and, deliver the level of services that our residents deserve. We're down a number of employees. We're down to 273. It's a very, very big organization. One of the biggest issues that we're dealing down there, and I had this conversation with Jim Lavero, our automotive guy. We have over 1,500 vehicles in the fleet. And in recent times, we've lost 2 diesel mechanics and 1 light duty mechanic. And these are good workers. They were interviewed, they were positive, they come on board. Unfortunately, they left, UPS. I mean, we can't, I don't know whether we have to go to that same salary scale, but we have to get more competitive. A starting salary for a mechanic is $48,000. And with the technical knowledge that's needed today, they're going into dealerships and they're making, $60,000. We've lost experienced mechanics where, even with raises and everything else, they're making $20,000 more. So we're having problems getting people taking the jobs, you know, and we have open positions. They're advertised. When we think they're going to take it, we find out, no, I can't take it. I can't take a pay cut, or I can't work for that amount of money. So, I mean, that's moving forward. I think what we have to do is align the starting salaries to the qualifications necessary for the positions. We minimized our outsourcing. When I first come in down there, we were spending over $3 million a year in outsourced contracts, which we've got that down to just pretty much about $1 million. And most of which is spent towards the larger equipment, that fire trucks and things like that, that we can't handle in-house. So I don't want to get back into that again. You know, I want to try and, you know, be comparable to what the private sector is. You know, with our benefits package, it's a good job, but unfortunately, the starting salaries is what's preventing people
Are they union?
coming in. Yeah,
That's why.
Do you want to go over the budget vacancies?
That's why. That's why. That's why I said with HR, we got to start figuring out how. Because we see this as a problem, and if we have so many fleets down there, we don't have enough employees to service it. What good is it? We burning out engines, I guarantee you. There's no oil in certain cars. The car's not maintenance. And so every year we ordering new cars, but they burning out too because we can't maintain them because there's not efficient mechanics down there. Because really it should be like a cycle or how you maintain a car. Like, you know, for us, you know, we drive, there's so many mileage. I have to take my car to maintenance. You know, it shows up. So I take the car to maintenance. But if there's nothing in place for us as a city to have that, then we're burning out engines. You know, police officers, their cars, they're probably burning out engines everywhere. That's why I'm saying we have to get to the place as a city to be competitive. And that's why I think as part of HR responsibility to start thinking outside the box. I'm tired of them telling me it's civil service. I'm tired of hearing that this is union. What can we do? Let's go to our highest resources, you know, far as the state goes, because if we mandate it by the state, let's have a conversation with the state to see how we can make it better. I'm quite sure we're not the only municipalities dealing with this. Other municipalities probably dealing with, but every time we get there, oh, it's the state, we can't do nothing. Oh, it's union, we can't do it. Let's get the state involved so the state can see how we really having our challenges to move our city to the 21st century, especially when it comes to automobiles.
I'll give you a perfect example to what you just said, Councilwoman. We had 2 people assigned to the tire changing. One had been terminated, and then the other one went for another position. Basically, the starting salary on it is about $41,000. The only advantage is that under the job specification, they can handle a regular duty vehicle like a police car or a fire engine. So right now, what we have to do is if we have a radio car, say for instance, for a flat tire, we have to pull a mechanic to deal with that. We can't use that same mechanic on a heavy duty vehicle because of the job specification. Then it turns into a union issue. We have to pay a heavy duty mechanic to work on a fire truck. So the recommendation is that instead of starting them at 41, we start them at 48, but they can do both.
Right.
You know, and that still leaves you the capability of the mechanics doing mechanic work.
Right.
But these are all challenges that, you know, we deal with. You know, back to Councilman Saleh, the budget this year, our request is $49 million, $49,294 and $294,813.14. And I want to get back to what I said earlier. 13 million now plus 2% comes off the top of that. The remaining portion of the budget and the increase is due to salary increases, contractually obligated salary increases, and costs of everything. You know, as I say, let's get back to that water pump. You know, a $75 water pump is now $200. I mean, we're not in a position that we're not receiving price increases like everybody else. I mean, we get discounts of bulk purchases, but the fact of the matter is that everything has gone up.
Yeah.
So if you look at that and redact these, we're still operating pretty much within the same amount of money that we've done for years. It's just that salary increases and other additional costs we have no control over impact the budget.
Guys want to add anything? I don't know.
So, just wanted to recap, because I know I wasn't, here yesterday for HR's presentation, but I'm gonna review it, later on today. I think what's going to be, as a recommendation, what we started a few years ago when Chanel was, downstairs and now she's back upstairs, is that, when we wanted to do a management compensation study just for the management employees, and we found and solicited some vendors, that approximate cost was going to be about $300,000. If the city and the council wants to do a more comprehensive study, on management, and union and the city's salaries and wages, that is going to be a bigger launch. And if you would like to see that request in this year's budget, we would have to receive something and go back to the administration if this is going to be comparable. Because oftentimes finance is asked to run the numbers, and when we do, we present a scale, but then there's an element of human resource management that they own in regards to management duties, work scopes that we do not do.
Right.
So in finance, we'll like to balance the budget and get things in accordance to it, but the director's only going to present a number based off of COLA or what is permissible in the unions. So that would be my recommendation to council, something to explore and to cite as an example, for the 300,000 that we did not solicit to do with the management compensation study. We've worked with Kyle and Chanel and the administration to figure out some things on the management side and even those things out. But I'm pretty sure what you saw yesterday or throughout this week is we're still not competing.
Right.
So those are just, things
Right.
that we've been exploring over the past couple of years. As we talk about growth, changes and everything of the sort, because most directors are basing their budgets on either last year or prior year kind of sort of work.
Yeah.
So just to give you a number, what
Yeah.
300 employees or management employees that we had, that particular cost was going to be $300,000. So if you think about citywide, that's probably much greater, but if that's a worthwhile investment, that's something that to be considered or phased in over multiple budget years.
Let me ask you something, Director. Based on the budget hearings, and we've been hearing this for about 2-3 years now, that the salaries are not competitive, and we, when directors are coming forth, they saying how they're losing staff, and the loss of staff really affects the residents. I don't even think sometimes residents really know all the back stuff that goes on, and they get upset when we can't answer their calls on various things. It's a lot of times because the staff is not there. We just don't have them. And so now my thing is this: why do I need another study to know that we're not competitive? Because that's what with the manager thing. But I'm just saying, I'm hearing it all the time.
Because
At this point,
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, and you got to do it from your point of view. But I just want it on the record, because at this point, it comes to a point, and we all up here, and we see this all the time. We don't need another study to tell us that we're not competitive. They're telling us based on their experience and the problems that they have, and we got jobs listed, and we can't find the people, or we hire the people the moment that we go through the physical, and then they say that they found a better job making more money. I don't want to pay another 300,000 or whatever it is that administration would say that I would need to do it. I just know based on what I'm hearing, and I know these directors are not coming here, lying, saying, "Oh, no, I know it." And then even HR sometimes they saying they having this problem too. I don't think the city should waste not another dime on getting another study that our salaries are not compatible. What we need to do is figure it out. That's why I'm saying, that's why when I had HR here, it's not you guys, y'all got to just figure out the money. That's why when HR is here, how are we thinking outside the box? Yes, we got these barriers. I'm aware of the barriers, okay? But it seemed like we stopped because the barrier is there. There is a lot of intelligent people in this city that are smart, that can think outside the box and say, you know what, maybe we can try this. Let's go to the state with this. Let's partner with another municipality. They're having the same issues. I mean, there's other ways to do this. That's all I'm saying. There's other ways.
And you're
Go
right.
ahead.
And you just cited the example that we did.
Mhm.
I went out, looked for vendors,
Right.
Worked in federal, state, and local level management and compensation plans, and we did it in-house.
Mhm.
We're now here 3 years later, still trying to figure out elements of what is human resource management and what is
Mhm.
operational management. From a financial perspective, when you work in companies or private
Yeah.
sector, HR has to provide scale over
Mhm.
time, and they work with finance in order to get some things here. I think what you're also seeing here and in regards to getting studies or aspects of work is an operational plan
Yeah.
and a maintenance plan. Those are all different things that are comprehensive to do so. As finance, we look at the numbers, if we can
Right.
afford it to do it, we will do it. But what you just described is what we did. And so
Yeah.
those are just things that from a finance's perspective, what we can administratively do and tell you what we can afford. But
Mhm.
ultimately, there are other elements here that do trigger other financial impacts and have to be determined and would have to be prioritized.
Mhm.
I wholeheartedly agree with Council President on this. The other thing I want to ask you guys is, maybe I'm an idiot, but who sets the salary range? Is it civil service that's setting the salary? Are we setting the salary? Like, what is preventing us from having a different starting salary, or, higher starting salary?
I think some of it is regulated by civil service.
Service,
who gets
yeah.
Scale. And then it would be the decision of the city where they want to be in that scale.
Okay,
And, one of the things too, I think that we should really kind of look at, the blue collar workers today are the backbone of this country.
Yeah.
The technical
Yeah.
aspects of like vehicles and things like that. We have a lot of these younger folks that are going to technical schools. I think we should really look at kind of making a partnership with them, to bring them in, to get them engaged. And, I think we're missing a boat on that. We had the towns, the council president said the talent is there. We just have to find a mechanism to,
Right.
to get them involved. And I mean, let's face it, it's tough raising a family today on these
Yeah.
salaries,
On these
most of
salaries.
the folks that I have down there, they're working 2 and 3 jobs just to do that, but we are really, really, and even on we have our electricians, our plumbers, these folks are all long-term employees, many of which are getting ready to come to retirement age. And the starting salaries we're offering even those folks is low. So I mean, it's something we really have to examine. Let's face it, everybody's going to need a plumber, everybody's going to need an electrician, and we have to be able to attract the best we can with, and still be competitive. Otherwise, we're going back to paying vendors, a lot of money as opposed to bringing our own in-house people in and doing the work in-house.
have to run, but I'm gonna hand it over to Council President. And I know we aired a lot of grievances, or I aired a lot of grievances, but I don't want that to take away from the superb job that you've done and your directors and employees have done. You have pages and pages of accomplishments here, and I know you couldn't all fit it into like this crazy thick packet, but it's been an honor and pleasure to work with you this year. And, really want to thank you for your lightning fast response, just being on the ball all the time, and, you and your directors and your employees. So,
Well, as I say, there's no I in team. We have a great team there. My division directors are phenomenal, and my workers they speak for themselves. They're not
Mhm.
day of the week doing what they have to do.
thank you for everything you do for the city, Director, and everyone in your department, for that matter.
We finished?
I have to leave.
He has to go somewhere, but let me ask this question here. I see on your organizational chart for each division that you have, there are certain vacancies there. I don't know if, I wanted to ask finance, are they in the budget? Like, let me see. I go to
You'll see in the
automobile.
PowerPoint presentation that the same organizational chart is in there, and the positions are color coordinated for what is funded. Those items are shaded green. Obviously, the
Okay.
white boxes are existing. Green boxes are vacant and funded.
Okay,
shaded blue would be,
Not
a
funded.
new request that would.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. So there is vacancy and the funding is there. It's just trying to find I guess, people who can fulfill it based on salaries. Got it. 48.
That's the single biggest problem we encounter. There again, we have applicants that are interested in the positions, but unfortunately during the interview process, as soon as we go to salaries, we lose them. And, we're down, I believe we're down, we have approximately 272, 273. When I first came in down here, we had well over 300.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the positions have been vacated. But the positions that, like, for instance, Director Dublin, I had a conversation with her yesterday, it's down roughly 7 positions on the custodial side.
Yeah.
And, we get, calls for service and we have people traveling from spot to spot to spot, so these are all positions that, we would love to fill as soon as they become available and funding becomes available to, ensure that, we're providing the services that's expected.
Mhm. Okay. And I know one time we talked about the sweepers. I know, the new sweepers that we had purchased at one time, they weren't the best. So how are we now with, sweepers? Did we get a better purchase of sweepers? The little sweepers that come, are they good?
We've had some, actually, we've had them, we've gotten complaints over the last couple of weeks with the leaves. The Ravo squeakers are pretty much phasing out.
Mm-hmm.
The council was gracious enough to approve funding for the bigger sweepers, the Elgins.
Yeah.
Do a better job. You have the mechanical sweepers as opposed to the other ones. The other ones were, they were bought on an experimental basis. They never really fulfilled the needs that we had. So what we're doing now is, as we receive complaints,
Mhm.
we have our sweeper supervisors going out and we're phasing out the Ravos and putting the Elgins on those locations. I don't know if it's whatever reason this year, we had a lot more leaves out there and they're still around. So
Yeah.
they clog the trucks up, which necessitates them going back to Public Works, takes them off the route. They have to get back and, traversing the city through traffic and everything else, it becomes pretty difficult. But we are addressing that now.
Who's responsible picking up these leaves? Is the homeowner if it's his tree? Because
Nature. The homeowners do a pretty good job picking them
Uh-huh.
up, but unfortunately,
Okay.
not everyone does their due diligence. They blow around and things like that. And, we work with the MUA, especially during potential storms, to make sure the catch basins are clean, most of which are, blocked by leaves and things. So, this year it's been a challenge, for whatever reason. Must be, I guess, more trees, more leaves.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Is there anything else you want to add, Director?
I'm good.
Finance, anything? Got it? Rich?
Greg, wait, we finished?
Yeah.
All right, Greg, I call you a million times and you take care of everything and I want to thank you. You're really good. The only thing I disagree with is I wish forestry was a little better. And talking about the leaves, my neighbor just got a ticket for leaves in front of his house. There were no leaves in front of his house.
Can't fight nature on that one, Rich.
I appreciate
Thank you, Greg.
Appreciate it, Director. Appreciate all that you guys do. I really do. On.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn at 11:25 a.m.?
Motion.
Motion made by Council President Waterman. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Bajiano. All in favor of the motion to adjourn at 11:25 a.m., please say aye by acclamation.
Aye.
We are out of here at 11:25 a.m. Please stay tuned for our next and last budget hearing for the week. All right, everyone, we're about to get started. If we can silence our cell phones. I see that all the doors are closed. That is fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Friday, the 20th day of December in the year 2024. This is a budget hearing for the Department of Public Safety with the Jersey City Municipal Council. We got a scheduled 1 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 1:06 p.m. And instead of doing a roll call, I'm just going to announce the members who are here. Councilperson Bajano and Council President Waterman.
Here.
We have 2 council members present at 1:06 PM. In addition, and it's time for its preparation, the notice of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Monday, December 9th, 2024 at 5:31 PM to the mayor, municipal council, business administrator, corporation council, and the local newspapers, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the sunshine law. Director, what we're going to be doing is we're asking all the department directors and their staff, who's ever here, just to identify themselves for the members of the public who are watching on the live stream. We know who you are, but they may not know, the members of the public, and we'll go around the room to do that before I turn it over to the municipal council. Just allow me to put the camera on you, and then we'll be good to go. Director, you're on. I don't think that's on. You just got to flick it up top on the mic itself.
Jim Shea, Director of Public Safety.
Tawana Moody, Police Director.
Bill O'Donnell, Department of Public Safety.
Carmen Gandola, Director of Finance.
Kyle Greaves, Finance Department.
Danny Page Not, Finance Department.
Thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it over to Council President Waterman.
Good afternoon, Director. Just go over your presentation and we'll ask questions in between, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Then we're going to start with the Division of Police, our biggest division.
Okay. So we'll just go down the line and we'll just do the operating numbers. Is that fair, guys? Or is she too? Okay.
Let's follow the,
Okay, that's fine.
follow this and just let us know what page,
That's fine.
whatever. And we'll,
Okay. This is just our overview of everything that's done in the inside of public safety, which is the police division overview. And that's all of the units that falls underneath, which is traffic, enforcement, school crossing guards, the police officers, as well as, traffic and car pound. Okay. What the next page is our budget and staff, which, as you can see, our adopted budget that we asked for in 2024 to 25 that we introducing. Number was a little bit, I think it was like 105. It's because we did lose a lot of our deputy chiefs. Okay. On our civilian end of it, we went from 61 employees on the civilian side, and now we only have 50. Sworn, we went from 913 to 836. That's our organizational chart on that one. And the next page is our divisions that's broken up, traffic, communications, the investigations, and it's just broken out into all of the divisions and the staff that we have there. What we had is some key incentives that we always, do. We've been doing since 2018, and that's community outreach. It's just a couple of the pictures of what it is that we do between bridging the gap inside of the police department and all of public safety. Our next key incentive and accomplishment was getting the de-escalation building open. And as you can see there, it's really just showing you a lot of the training scenarios, the breakout rooms, car stops that we have there. Keeping a one-stop shop going. We have the ABC unit now in a public safety building. And of course, we have the program that we're dealing with Arrive Together. So that was another one that we did get up and going there.
wait a minute, Rick.
Go ahead.
Let me go back because people are watching and I want to make sure.
I'm
they have a
sorry.
clear, I want to make sure they have a clear understanding. Okay. Let's start out with, because we understand it, but when the public is watching, there's certain things that they don't understand. So
Okay.
it's easier, and everybody's been doing it. It's like when you did your police safety overview with public safety and the Department of the Chief. It might be good if you read like the Office of, Deputy Public Safety, that portion. Read that in there so the people can hear that.
So you're talking about the page, Council?
Page 2.
Okay.
Start there and then go back to you know, the budget and staff total, let them know that, you know, the analysis and the head count, and then when you get to your org chart, patrol bureau, let them
Okay.
know it's the north, south, east, west. You know what I mean? Because
Not a problem.
they don't understand it.
Gotcha.
You going through it, we understand it, we're looking at it, but they can't see the presentation. So I think the more information we give them, the better off it'll be. And then the divisions, the traffic enforcement, how many staff, how many vacancies,
Okay,
okay?
that's perfect.
This way they can understand it.
No problem. So then on our Public
Jane.
Safety Division overview is the Deputy Director of Public Safety, the Office of the Chief, which we have, that's underneath there. That handles all of police-related department matters, including services provided by Traffic Enforcement Unit, the School Traffic Guards Unit, the Police Fiscal. We have the Firearms Department, as well as the Police Record Room. That's where you get all of your police report. Traffic guards assist with various of crossings throughout the city and Jersey City, and not limited to just the crossings, because they help with the parades and the festivals that we have. The police fiscal is responsible for all of the police budget, as well as the fiscal duties related to payroll, pension, et cetera, that we have, including both sworn and civilian. Firearm Department is responsible for all firearms permits, and the record room is responsible for all of our police reports throughout the city. And we have, let's go to this page, which is our police budget and staff that we have. The budget that we had, I think last year we had, I want to tell you exactly, our budget was 110 million that we had. We spent 106 million. And what we're asking for this year is 126. What we have civilian-wise, you have 61 employees we had last year. This year, we only have 50. Our police number was up. We had 887 sworn police officers as of last year. As of this date, we only had 836. Okay?
Yeah. We don't have that.
Okay. So we have the, everything that falls underneath police is the chief office. We have the patrol bureau, which is the north, the south, the east, and the west. And citywide burglary and housing unit is all that falls under patrol. The investigation unit is street crimes, intel, major case, SVU, juveniles, ceasefire, and criminal warrants. That's what falls underneath investigations. The chief office is internal affairs, special investigation unit, the medical bureau, and our body worn camera that we have, as well as the traffic, and then a quality of life unit. Support services is our property room, BCI, Megan's Law, Scofflaw, Central Booking, and Motor Pool. Our training bureau is our force unit, investigation, training unit, background unit, and the academy. So on this one is just a breakdown of traffic, Bishop, and the BCIs, the divisions we have in traffic. We have staff, 237, and we have 65 vacancies. For traffic, for Bishop Street, we have communication, where we have director. We have staff of 125 onto there. Car pound
Vacancies, right? No vacancies.
on Bishop Street,
No.
the numbers keep varying for there, but it was like 15 we
Okay.
needed because we keep going up and down. Car pound, of course, that just opened up. We have staff of 12 with 5 vacancies. We still need some of those because they just opened up as of the 2nd of December.
Okay.
The record room, we have in the inside of theirs 6 and 7 of them with 2 vacancies
Mhm.
that we have in there. We have our fiscal unit, which is the 2 vacancies that we have in that unit. We have our CJs who runs all of the plates to make sure we're good. That whole unit is staff. So we don't need employees there, but we have on staff there, it's like 10 of them.
Mhm.
Okay, gun permit is still one person in gun permit,
Okay.
which we have 2 vacancies. Definitely a difficult one here to fill.
Okay.
UCR is the unit we had to do that, we had to build that we need to get to 7, and we have in there right now 5.
What is that UCR?
UCR is where the uniform crime reports come from, like that whole end of the year we just did.
The UCR is the federally mandated uniform crime reports that we must report to the state and the federal government so they can compare crime across the United States.
Okay,
And they recently changed it and made it much more involved. It used to be a 2-person office. It now requires a 7-person office.
okay.
That's all around the state.
That's around the state.
Yeah,
That's
the
the
same
state
thing happens in
requirement.
Newark and everybody else. Yeah.
Okay,
We have our police staff and support staff that we have, and that's like more of our the people that's down at the de-escalation training room, our investigative civilians that's there. It's like 7, no vacancies needed there. We have no one we need there. BCI is the staff that we have there, and we just have 3 vacancies on that one. And that's where they process all of the prisoners at.
gotcha.
Okay. Our police. Okay.
Just going to give her a break because she's been
Okay.
doing all the reading, so I'll
Okay.
take over for a little while. We'll keep switching back and forth.
That's okay.
Public Safety Police Division key initiatives.
Mhm.
This year, 1, increased professional development for our sworn personnel training, such as active shooter training, hostage training, Arrive Together program training, et cetera. This includes all of the mandated training from the Attorney General, which mandates went this year from 1-day training, 1 8-hour day, to 4 to
Okay.
conclude all of the training.
Explain to me, what is the ride-on training? What is that?
The which one?
You said ride-along training?
No, Arrive Together. That's
Okay.
that's the Attorney General program that we're committed to, the 1 day a week, where we have a social worker ride for 8 hours with one of our trained police officers,
Okay.
and they do follow-ups on emotionally disturbed persons.
So that's-
They do not respond to 911 calls. They do follow-ups on previously identified nonviolent, emotionally disturbed persons.
And that's 1 day a week?
1 8-hour shift a week. Now,
Okay,
direct
1,
to 2.
what is
Oh, so Tawana just said we just got up to 2.
2?
We've told them that we'll fill as many days as they can give us,
Okay,
but right now it was 1 and just went to 2.
okay, so the social worker is from what department? Is that the hospital?
Medical center,
Okay, so the medical center is providing 2 social workers to ride along with a police officer?
2 8-hour shifts.
2
Yeah,
8 hours.
8-hour shifts of us,
And it does the shifts vary, like could
No.
be from 7 to 3, or it's just,
7 to 3,
it's 7 to 3, that's it?
day tour.
Oh, okay, that's what they're
Just-
giving us, 7 to 3, all right.
Okay, next initiative, continuing to bridge the gap between the community and the police department through constant communication, such as our captains meetings at every district at every month, and our annual activities, our Rock the Blocks with our senior citizens,
Mm.
and our Rock the Blocks for the juveniles and young children. We plan to continue those. They've been expanding and getting larger every year, so we're hoping this year to get even bigger. We think we're going to need 2 blocks instead of 1.
Okay.
Continuing our commitment to promote from within, to consider current employees for all of our promotional opportunities, especially our civilian employees, to give them career paths so they can move forward. Our sworn officers know how to do that, but our civilians, we're giving them more of opportunities. And then, of course, our number 1 priority, constantly working to decrease crime across the city with our increased presence, our fixed posts, our use of cameras and technology, and our investigative initiatives.
Okay, now, when you said fixed posts, because I know for the community, sometimes that's challenging, because sometimes they'll see an officer like in a patrol car, and they're on a certain corner or whatever the case may be. They can't move from that corner if something else happens, correct? Like, let's say
that's-
let's say there's
Uh,
a child or something and they need a block away and they posted there. Could they get up and help? I mean, somebody come say, please, please help, help.
Of course they can. That adds to the sum of misinformation that's out
Okay.
there. Of course they can. The point being, of course, if they're assigned, if we take the time to take a police officer and assign them to a fixed post, it's because there's a condition
Right.
on that location that needs it for ongoing drug dealing. You're aware,
Yeah.
I'm sure, that one of the locations that you've brought to our attention many times, we just
Right.
executed a major search warrant at
Uh-huh.
after months of investigation and made 3 arrests and recovered large amounts of narcotics. But if the community is complaining about major narcotics going on in a corner and we assign an officer to that corner to curtail that activity, that's their primary job. Now, if someone comes to them and says, oh, we need you down here, of course they can move there.
Okay.
But what they can't do is just drift around at
Around.
their own discretion. They need to address that community complaint.
All right.
We want to maintain the grand opening of our new de-escalation center and training center, which will continue and which ties in with all the required training that's being thrown at us now. Gives us an opportunity to do better training for our officers and the community relations. Maintaining our one-stop shop. Remember last year, we brought all of the public safety permitting requirements to one place so that our citizens no longer had to drive from the east to the north to the south, to the center of the city in Journal Square to get different permits for the same location. Now they come to one location and they're helped by one of our customer service representatives and they get everything they need from us at that one time.
Director, I just want to go back to the de-escalation training. I don't know if you heard, I'm quite sure the administrator probably reached out to you because my concern was that I know we hire for de-escalation training, but I asked the question because times has changed and there's so much going on. Is there a way that staff can start benefiting from this de-escalation training? Because there's just too much going on in the world. The staff need to be trained on how to deal with the public. If someone comes in, they should be trained on how to speak to them, just like you are training your police officers. Now, and I think the staff need to be, trained on what to do. I brought it up with the mayor's office when they were here, and I told them to reach out to see how the staff can start benefit from the training. I know when we first started de-escalation, I know there was a big training downtown. I went down there to see exactly how it was. Then there was training throughout the city. Different churches had training. I remember that, all right? But my concern is now the staff needs to be trained. I mean, we had incident with people coming in, they didn't know how to handle it, what to say, what to do. So I just wanted to put that on the radar. I think that's something we need to start looking into for staff to be trained. It's just a different day. We can't take it for granted. And how many buildings that we have as a city now?
Yes, ma'am. We can certainly use that facility for that. And we've hired outside trainers that we had a lot of success with before, training our 911 operators, our traffic officers who interact with the public in negative ways a lot. We can probably extend that too. So we'll look into it.
Yeah, but I would prefer, though, if possible, that the training be on the sites of the city building, because it's one thing to get trained in another facility and where all the exit is. It's different when you get trained in the facility that you're familiar with. You'll know what to do, where to go. I don't know. This is just a concern.
Yeah, I understand your concern and we'll talk to the mayor's office.
Okay, I just wanted that on your radar. I didn't know if they reached out to you. Go ahead.
And then finally, of course, our command conference center is finally open in the center of the city for any emergency event. So we've been working all year on getting the tech to catch up to the physical space. And now we're confident that we can run any major event that happens in the city from that conference center. Next page, 2024 goals. Was the grand opening of the new de-escalation center. We wanted to implement cross-training of our civilian staff to help them their opportunities to grow within the department and better serve our constituents. We wanted constant professional development for sworn and civilian personnel. We wanted proactive training for all of our sworn officers, like the tactical training, incident response training, de-escalation training. And we wanted to increase our CCTV cameras citywide, helping curb crime and protect our constituents. I'll just quickly go through, the de-escalation center is open. The cross-training of the civilian staff has succeeded and we're continuing. We're finding better opportunities for some of them and we're making sure that the ones who interact with the civilians are trained to better serve our constituents. The professional development is continuing. The proactive training for our sworn officers is continuing. We're happy with it. We're still testing it by use of simulated events. However, that's been impacted by, again, the Attorney General has changed the state requirements for training. So we're going to have to quadruple our time committed to the state requirements. Some of it crosses over de-escalation training, et cetera. We're confident we can do both, but we're going to have to focus on making sure we do what's required by the state first, and then any leftover time we'll commit to our desired training. And finally,
Wait, let me ask you, so when the state requires us to do something, do they give us any funding?
No.
I'm just curious, because
no, none.
you know, they could come change at any time and we could be training in one way and then all of a sudden here come a mandate, we need you to do this, but then that can cost us another extra 100,000. So they don't contribute.
It's a completely unfunded mandate, both in money and time. And the time is more important because if we have to train an entire police force, if you add 3 training days, the equivalent to 3 training days, that's 3 times 800, 2,400 days that they won't be out on the street.
So now when we train though, because then explain it to me, because I'm not a police officer and know how this really goes. Now, when we're required by the state to do certain training, and if we have so many police officers on duty, okay, how do we balance that out with the protection of the city? Do we say, okay, 30 police officers have to go in training, so we're only going to have like maybe, let's say a 30 on the street, you know what I mean? And whereas on that day you could have had 60, I'm just giving a number, but now since this training is required, I got to take 30 and put in training, you know, how is that done and how that keeps us kind of flowing as a city, or does that kind of cripple us?
Well,
You know,
we were
I
a little ahead of the curve because Director Moody had developed the training bureau a couple years ago. She must have had a crystal ball to see all this stuff coming. But it's a good question. Bottom line is we never affect the safety of our citizens.
Okay.
So we know what we need to answer the radio runs, to handle car accidents, to be available in case citizens call for help, detectives to investigate crime, emergency service to support our officers in emergencies. We never allow that number to shrink on any given day. What we will do is if we have officers in excess of that number, we'll try to get them into a training module, or we'll have to bring them in on overtime. Now, this year, the contracts are up.
Okay.
And one of the things we're exploring with both police and fire is whether they would be willing to add training days to their yearly, time that they come to work, days dedicated to training, so that we would never have to impact those days when we have people out on the street. And they're very, they're interested. It would be revenue neutral for the city because we would pay for 8 hours, but we get 8 hours of training. So it's a fair deal for the city, and it would allow the officers to go to training on committed days and not kind of go piecemeal when it's available. So we're exploring that with both unions now, and we've gotten a positive reaction from both.
Y'all can just jump in. I'm just jumping. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And as far as increasing the CCTV cameras, we had a meeting the other day, and I think everybody knows we are comfortable with our coverage now. And this year, we used federal money available in grants to increase the back end, the servers, the storage. One of the things we're finding is several of our initiatives that we're doing are very storage heavy on these videos. The body cameras are excellent. Our CCTV is excellent, but maintaining those videos for an increasing period of time in case there is a civil case, in case there's a criminal case, is extensive. So we are having to put a lot of money, not just us, nationwide. We're just a little ahead of the curve because we're doing a better job, I think, under Director Moody than a lot of people. I'll give you an example. We had to put our funding this year into those back things as opposed to putting new cameras out there. So we're comfortable with our camera coverage, and we have now increased our storage and server ability. One of our initiatives this year that's taking up that servers under Director Moody and the chief We have started an initiative where we document every interaction with a person in crisis.
Okay.
And we not only document it, we take the video of our interaction with that person. It's reviewed by supervisors to see if there's any training needs, and then it's kept. So if we have another interaction with that person, we can look back at the first one and see, is there negative, are they going in a negative direction? Do we need to, like, were they more lucid, were less lucid? Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Is someone who's supposed to be taking their medication showing signs of not? All of that is now available to the social workers, to the medical people, if they want to look at our interactions with any person in crisis. It's also available if there's ever a question of how we handled that person in crisis. So now every single interaction with a person in crisis in Jersey City is documented, and all the film is libraried, for want of a better word, so that we can always look back at our interactions if there's a question. But that takes storage space up.
And
Now,
so-
we believe the entire state, if not the country, eventually is going to go in the same direction. We think we're just the first ones to do it.
And so with the social worker, then I assume that because she's, or her, or they, whoever, is riding with the police officer for 8 hours, 2-hour shifts, right? They would have some information if a person is in crisis, because if a person is in crisis, I don't think this may be their first time. So then that social worker should already have some information and know how to accompany that police officer if they know it's the same address. Am I correct?
Yeah, we've always had that relationship with the crisis response team. Yes, they're riding around out there, but again, I don't want people to think this program is something it's not. They cannot respond to
Right.
persons in crisis at that moment. Like we just had one today. We just had a walk-in about an elderly, went to the apartment. It was a barricade. The person was threatening and had barricaded their apartment. We were able to resolve it peacefully, but Arrive Together cannot respond to that job until the scene is secured. But they are available, like the crisis team always was,
Right.
to tell us, well, we've been there 10 times
That's what
before,
I
or they
mean.
have a
They should be able to have some, I know they can't respond to it, but if they hear an address over the system, I'm quite sure in the car, they should say, well, this address, there's a person in crisis. I've known, I've been there. So then when the police officers arrive, they should know pretty much how to assess it and deal with the situation. That's what I'm saying, because they should have some information.
If they do, they absolutely share it.
Okay, that's my concern. They should be sharing that
Yeah.
information, because I'm quite sure a social worker would know if they helped this person at this address numerous times. And so if a police officer is getting a 911 call, then there should some alert go up with them. I'm quite sure to say, okay, no, this person is a person in crisis even before the police get there.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
I mean, we're ahead of them even. We have, for lack of a better word, repeat customers.
Yeah.
And we have informational supplies to all of our officers identifying who persons in crisis that have been in touch with us before, things that have worked, ways of communications that were fruitful, ways of communication that were not fruitful, danger signals when they're dealing with them. So
Right.
between all of us, we kind of break down into two categories: people that we've repeatedly come into contact with that we're well aware of and we know and everyone knows. And then lately we've had a couple that just moved into Jersey City. The one person that he's now a repeat customer, but our first barricade was the first time, though he had an extensive history in New York.
Right.
And like today's is an elderly person that probably, it's our first time dealing with them. I doubt it will be our last, but it's probably onset, recent onset.
The police and the police are trained in crisis.
Yes, every member of the department
Okay.
has received a crisis communication training, every single member. Our 2025 goals, we want to get the new East District open for the grand opening. We still would like it. We ask every year. I know we're never going to achieve this, or we don't seem to be, but we would still like a mounted unit for our downtown area and for our parks. Somebody someday will.
The new
Get
East
that going. I
District,
believe that.
Director,
and-
the new East District, you mean in Hoboken, where you opening it?
No, it's in Jersey City, sir.
Yeah, on 16th Street, 17th Street. What a jerk that is.
Building going up there.
We would like to expand the department for more police presence, which provides more safety for our constituents. Every year, that's our goal. The mayor and I, going back, I guess, 10 years now, we looked at the department, did a full study. I still believe this department should be between 1,000 and 1,100 officers. With the decline in hiring and the decline in applicants nationwide for policing, we will not achieve that next year. We will, though, we hope. We have now, and I mentioned this in our last meeting, we're past the 25-year mark of the large classes that were hired during the Safe Streets, Safe City initiatives of the late 90s.
Okay.
So we are not expecting any more major bulges of retirements
Okay.
through the pipeline. And we should now, hopefully next year, be able to catch up a little and to chip into some of that decline. But we will not get to the 1,000 to 1,100 that we think the department should be at.
Because everybody's done pretty much reached the age of retirement that is retiring. So we will pretty much have a full police force in another 2 years.
Yeah, we have some people coming up for retirement, but much less than
Much
came
less.
up over the last 2 years because there was that huge amount of hiring
Right.
under the federally funded Safe
Right.
Street, Safe City back in the late.
Yeah, but a lot of them are not leaving retiring. A lot of them are leaving to other departments because they're tired of what's going on here in Jersey City.
Yeah, I looked into that when you said last time. No, we do not have a large group of people leaving for other departments. We had one officer leave for the Port Authority.
Right.
Any officer hired by the Port Authority, that is traditionally
Yeah.
when they go. But other than that, no, we don't. We did have 2 officers leave for other departments who returned
Oh, they
after they
retired.
went to the other departments. They
He
came.
came back.
Yeah. So,
Go ahead.
Director, how, I know.
I'm sorry, Councilman Solomon, not to interrupt you, but I just want to mark you present at 1:09 PM. So we have 3 council members present. I'm sorry.
All good. What would be your goal of how many officers will get into academy and hire in 2025?
how many seats can you get?
So right now, the county gave me 20, but the police tests have to come out. It doesn't come out again until March. So we have a current list right now with 75 on it. But out of that background, would I get the 20 seats? Hopefully, but then we would have to wait for a new police test to come, which doesn't come into March.
And when do we get those seats? The 20?
So traditionally, we have filled every seat that
Right.
they've offered to us. What we have now is we have the final 75
Right.
residents that are eligible to be hired. They're going under background investigations. By the time some of them will decline, some of them will have found other employment, in the meantime.
Right.
Our experience is of 75, we will probably get 15 to 20.
Okay.
That enter the academy. We'll probably lose 5 in the academy and we'll end up with 15. We will then, there's a new test in March. It'll come out. We'll now have the top of a new list. We will try to get as many as we can. We'll shoot for maybe 50 to 100. She's saying 70 to right in the middle there. But that will depend now on how many seats the academy is able to give us, because just like we'll have a new pool of people to hire, so will everybody else. So every jurisdiction will be kind of a jockeying for those seats that are available in the academy to get people trained and certified as police officers. Now, the Hudson County Police Academy has been very good to us, and they have bent over backwards to try to get the seats that Director Moody needs to get our people trained. We're the large engine of Hudson County. So they will work with us. But if you ask me, I would love to get 15 to 20 into the first class, and I would love to get somewhere between 50 and 100 into the second class by the end of the year.
And right now, what do our recruitment efforts look like in advance of the March test?
Pardon me?
What do our recruitment efforts look like in advance of the March test?
We still have our recruiting, our training people out there. Police recruiting has not been our problem. Council President will remember when we all took over 11 years ago, it was a big problem. We now have our recruiters, our juvenile officers, our school officers have kind of talked up the test. We will still, sir, make the computers available for people who don't have computers. We'll help people file for the test. We'll do the pre-physical training for them so that they make sure that they can pass. We do all of that. Quite frankly, the police department very much reflects the city. Everybody is involved. Every community group has representation. We're not as worried. We're still struggling with the fire department. And it's not because, we'll get to it later, we're getting more applicants, but we're still not getting the penetration into certain communities we want. And it's a tougher one because one, fire is an elemental fear. A lot of people just do not want the job. They don't want to know anything about going into a building that's burning on fire. We have to do a lot of training to make them understand what the job entails, what the opportunities are, how safe they'll be, the efforts we'll put into them to get them there. Number two, it's a very family-oriented job. It's a job that historically across the country has been family-oriented and families go into it. So to break new people into that is taking us a lot more effort than we needed for the police department. So increasing our CCTVs, we still want to increase now that we've got the back end covered. We are going to start increasing our CCTVs more, and council members, that will include, we've now succeeded at this. We'll have to go back to those first cameras we put in, and we're going to have to start replacing some of them. They've reached the end of useful life, and we're going to have to replace those. And those are at our real key locations. So we'll do that this year. And expanding the vehicle fleet, which Director Moody will talk about later. Okay, you want to go to budget changes? I'm going to pass it back to Director Moody now for the budget changes.
So on our next pages would be, I'll just read the expenditure and then what we're asking to introduce. Is that fair? Or do I need to read something else besides that? Because it'll tell you my expenditures of what I spent. So the budget we asked for in 2024 was $1,836,431. And then this year we are asking for the 108,687,670 for salaries. Because as Director Shea just alluded to, we had a whole lot of retirees, which was our deputy chiefs and them that did retire because it was so many big classes coming. And you have a lot of the younger salaries that's coming through now because it's the new classes. Our part-timers wasn't there. Overtime, I cannot stress this one enough, where you guys gave me 8.5. I'm at I spent 9.9 million, but I asked for $14 million just so that we can go back to how the AG office is putting down all these trainings. You have to train these people. We can't tell them no because their licenses is tied to it. So they have to take these licenses, they have to get these classes, and that's overtime because it's no way we can do it without paying overtime. So if we had 913 officers or 887 last year, and now I only have 837 of it, I still got to do the same amount of police keeping there, if not more, with less cops that I have that's out there. So the $14 million for the last, want to be fair here, 5 or 6 years, I've always asked for the 13 or 14. And by the time December come, I'm close to the number, but never over the 13 million.
So this is basically because of the training that the AG is demanding us to do. So we have to increase our budget because they demanding this and they're not contributing to this.
They do not pay us for that. We have to pay for that. Is a cost that's for us here in the city.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because I know you understand, but you mentioned the people watching. They're not just demanding it, they're mandating it. And we cannot leave police officers on the street unless they do this training. New Jersey now has a licensing requirement for police officers. And as part of that license for them to perform the duties of police officers, they must perform this training every single year. So where we used to be able to get it was a day twice a year. Now it's 3 days twice a year to get all the 4-hour blocks in that we have to get. And that doesn't even include the training that the mayor, yourselves, that we want our officers to do. That's only the stuff that's mandated from the state that we are not allowed to deviate from. So it's a huge unfunded mandate across the whole state.
What is the training that they demanding? I'm just, because I don't know. I mean,
One of them was just.
what is that? I'm quite sure. What is the
I'll have
training
to-
that the state is mandating?
I will send it to you, but I mean, they just added 4 hours of jujitsu training to us.
Real?
Yes. There was 4 hours of active shooter training. We were a little ahead of some of this. I'm proud to say.
But I'm not trying to make fun of it, but I'm just trying to figure out, the state is demanding this, and I just want to know what is the training that they demanding our
Yeah,
officers to do? This way the public will know the state is demanding them that they learn what?
Jujitsu, yeah.
Okay.
But
So
I
then
will,
a lot of these, okay, not a lot. So that's a way that they can, I guess, approach somebody without using a gun.
there's different thoughts.
Oh, I
Uh,
mean,
We have an incredibly restrained police force. We're ahead of most of the training requirements we've been doing. Like they were surprised, that office, to find that all of our officers had done the were crisis communication qualified.
Okay.
We do incredible training twice a year. We test de-escalation techniques. We have a training bureau. We monitor all our officers' training. We bring in people. We have a force investigative unit started by Director Moody that investigates every single use of force, no matter how minor, by a police officer, and offers training to our officers on how it could have been handled differently. So we're ahead of a lot of this. Council President, one thing I will do is get you a copy of all of this required trainings that's changed this year, and I'll send it to you to distribute to the council.
thank you.
Okay, so the next line is our uniform allowance. That's per the contract. We have to pay that number out, which is the $1.1 million. The holiday comp time, that's contractual, can't do nothing about it, and that's for every officer that can sell back days. Retirement, the lump sum payout, of course, that number was high because, as I said to you, we had a large class, 887, like 50-something people to leave. So you have to do the payout for that. Then we'll drop down to my operating number that we need down here, our office supplies, different stuff like that, which is line 201. It was 32, we spent 36. Which again, just want to be able to we asked for high numbers, but then, and I get it, when the budget office have to, cut back, it's just the unfortunate part is hard. And so they do work with me to try to get me the necessary things that I need. Photographic, as you see, we didn't use that. Our food line is the stuff that we normally use for the block parties that we have that's out there. Constructions is none. Line 212, again, the Rock the Block parties, the night outs that we have to spend because that's all the way around that we do it. I'll wear and appear, and that is to make sure, because at public safety, everyone wears uniform unless you have the office job. But we make sure everybody have wear and appear, especially with crossing guards, because it's contractual that we put it to them. Our line 218 is our police supplies, which is our ammunition. Even with the new de-escalation, and as you just heard, all of the training, ammunition is not something we can play with. We cannot play with ammunitions and the supplies that go there because the guys have to qualify now twice a year. So that number is up as well. So they have to go and qualify and taken off the street. Some is 4 times a year because of the way they switch it. So that's like all of those things, and like that we can go through it is because all of that affects our overtime number because you have to get that part done. That was my ammunition. Then we have just like the regular rentals that we may have. Some of them just increased because we now have to put rentals in some of our locations or increase them. Supplies, some of it went down, which is, you can see our dues for 306. We brought that one down. Training and meeting expenses. Again, training is not something we can get around. So that one we did to 75, but with us having a de-escalation center, it does help a little bit in cost. And with HR now taking over the tuition. So that's why that number that's normally high is down as well.
Let me ask you a question, Director. Do anyone use our training facility, the new de-escalation center that we just,
Yes.
is a fee for them or it is a fee? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to actually I believe they want to do press on it at some point, but yes, multiple police departments, both in-state and federal, are using it or asking us to use it and are willing to pay the fees to the city to use it. So it will become self-sustaining, we hope,
And let
as
me
we
ask
go,
you
and it
something.
will chop in, we'll ask you for money, but we'll be able to return money to the general fund.
Now, is it possible then, is there a portion of that, maybe a percentage that can go to like, training the public with it? Like de-escalation? I don't know, because now if this facility will pretty much pay for itself, then there should be a portion of that. I don't know if it's 5%. I'm just, asking a question, 5% or whatever, that can help the community in some way or another, help with the training and, get them on board, get them to see certain things, have them a part in some way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we're really community orientated. And so if that de-escalation center is going to be, I want to say, a help to us because other entities are coming in wanting to rent and it will pay for itself, but a portion should always be set aside, especially when it comes to the community and some type of community give back or some type of community training or, some type of mental health social worker coming and give a work class. I'm just saying. That's all. I'm just
Yeah,
trying to think outside the box because whatever we do, we want to try to, especially if other people coming in and want to use our facility, we just want to carve a portion of that out because we don't want it to keep coming out of your budget per se. But if this is going to be a mechanism in which funding can come in, just take like 2% or 5% of that and filter it back in the community in some way. That's all. You know what I'm saying? It's a thought, right?
Yeah, as the revenue increases, that would be, again, for the council.
Right.
The
But
council and the
I'm,
business
the
administration.
reason why I'm saying this is I'm trying to bring all this on the table because this is a budget. And so when things are out on the table, we could say, okay, you know what, I remember there was discussion about that. Is it a possibility that we can do that? When that funding started to come in, we could take 2% or 5% of that and create something for the community in some type of way. That's what I'm saying. Instead of keep going into our regular budget, trying to get this, because we see now, if everybody wants to use this facility, that's a revenue that we didn't have before. Because we didn't have the place.
Yes, so what the council can do with administration and public safety is amend the municipal code where those fees are outlined. You'd have to add language to dedicate a portion of the
Yeah,
funds
I'm gonna.
and obviously adopt the ordinance with the amendments. And then we'd have to get approval from the state to establish a dedicated fund for that. So similar to what we did with cannabis tax.
Yeah, I just think so, since it's, since they come in to use the facility, we should figure out a way how we can give some to the community, in some way or another, community policy, something like that. Thank you. Go ahead.
And then the last that we have on the page 11, on that one is literally just the leasing that we have to pay for. Guys, all of you council people, thank you so much for the new police vehicles. We now can get them around because we did have bad fleet going. So our number went from the 1.3 up to the 2.8, and that's just to pay for all of the leases for the new cars that we got.
Let me ask you something. Is there a mechanism in the police department with these vehicles that there's a log book over there when they should be maintained? Because like when they come in, and so when they're supposed to be maintenance, y'all send them to the
Yes.
auto
Down
department?
to DPW, anything services, when it should be checked, the supervisors on duty, make sure
Okay.
there's no accidents that might happen. They inspect the
Uh-huh.
car. Every time it's supposed to go down for service, DPW normally let us know this car needs to come on down for.
Okay, so it's DPW responsibility, not you guys' responsibility. So DPW should have a log saying, okay, we got this.
Yes, it's just shared, but that's
Board.
their responsibility because they'll send us the list. Our responsibility is to make sure we get it down there.
Okay,
But we work with DPW and they do a great job with that.
okay, because I don't want to hear about no more, engines blowing. Because ain't no oil in the car.
Listen, I don't want to say too much, but the problem with cars and policing is
No,
no car was ever designed to put up with the stresses that we put it through, driving it through almost 24 hours a day. So you're right, though, regular maintenance increases their life, but it's just, that's eternally in policing, we're going to be tough on cars and we're going to need to replace them faster than other people.
go ahead. No.
Go ahead. The last page, which is page 12, that's just the justifications of the budget changing, like to any line that I need. And 212, it was the increase, as Director Shea said, that a lot of our community events, the numbers saw increasing. So that's the increase for there. The wear and repair would just be, that one stayed the same. The ammunition was line 218. Because again, we have the building that's down there and the mandates that we have to do to qualify. Where's the increase of that? And other than that, 2025 needs is just the increase for the foods for there. And the lease payment went up because we have the more vehicles.
Director Shea, Mr. Shea, are you the police director? Are you the police director?
I'm the public safety director. I thought I
Public
introduced
safety.
myself.
In other words, we have two directors.
Yes.
Nice, because when the mayor got in, the taxpayers. All right, I have a whole load of questions to ask. Why is the parking authority short 65 people? Number one. Can you answer that?
When it comes to parking enforcement, right, we put in a request. If the budget is not there, we gotta wait until the budget office approve for us to put new employees there. And a lot of the employees, sometimes they can go out on different leaves. We can't do anything about that part. So they have been doing a great job of getting us new employees over at parking enforcement.
Actually, the parking authority should be making millions of dollars for the city. I see the sweeper come down my street, no ticket giver, several cars parked there. Nobody's getting tickets, and that's all over the city. All right, the parking authority's a mess. Your school guards, I get complaints all the time. Who's ever running the school guards? The morale is horrible. The police department, why'd you take lieutenants off the desk and put sergeants behind the desk?
That's a simple one. So
Simple?
we consolidated, and I know you were in a precinct, so we consolidated the booking procedures to a central booking. The reason behind that was after talking to the cops, we realized we were doing excessive transport of people that were under arrest. And we were bringing them first to a district, doing part of the processing there, then transporting them to central booking, finishing the processing. Instead, now, both they and their property go directly to central booking. That limits the time that they're being transported, where they can get sick, where they can get injured, where there can be a negative interaction with the police officers, and it brings them into contact with a more professional cadre whose whole job is dealing with people under arrest. So they do it every day, they're familiar with the challenges, and they're good at it. By removing the responsibility for prisoners and property, which are the two largest responsibilities of any desk officer by far, by removing those from the districts, it was no longer necessary to have a lieutenant as the desk officer in the district. In central booking, it is still required for there to be a lieutenant as the supervisor on the desk. In the districts where now their whole responsibility has been kind of cut back to turning out the new platoon, getting them out on the street, and then just waiting because no prisoners come there, no property is handled there, etc. Now that can be handled at the sergeant level. Now, I'm sure you know, I was the one who put lieutenants back on the desk. When I took over the Jersey City PD, it was sergeants on the desk. I was the one who put lieutenants back there because at the time, their responsibilities included these prisoners and property. So now that we have removed that and centralized it, there's no longer a need to have excessive resources on the desk.
Yeah, but the lieutenant has the experience. I worked in a precinct for 36 years. The lieutenants have the experience. You got new sergeants. You're taking the experience out from behind the desk, and it's more professional to have a lieutenant who has the experience over the years behind the desk rather than a sergeant. All right, I think maybe the both of you should get out and start speaking to the police officers because the morale in the police department and the fire department is horrible. And I have them stopping at my house. I speak to them all the time. As I said, I taught most of them in the police academy, and I listen to them. And when you said they're not leaving, many will be leaving this job here. They're going to other departments. They're looking. I know of several right now that are looking to other departments to leave Jersey City. You have to build the morale back up. You have to get it back to the way it was because it's a shame. And The ones who are suffering are the people of Jersey City. And the last 2 days, Director Moody, you got a call from Rachel Sieg about a car to respond for, they broke into her car the other day. Did you call the police? Did you call the radio room?
So what happened is Rachel did call my personal phone
Personal.
to ask me in reference to her car getting broke into. And she said to me, Director, because of whatever the situation that they did, she had to call over to there. And I did do a follow-up to make sure that the cops were going to show up there. In between, they switched, changing of shift. So then she called me to let me know, Director, they did not get there. And we followed up, called the radio room and said for them to get an officer over there. So yes, I did assist.
All right, about 2
I
hours
wanna say
later,
this.
I had to
Wait,
call
wait,
the
wait,
radio.
wait. I want to say this. I don't want nobody's personal business
Thank you.
here.
Thank you.
This is a budget hearing.
Yeah.
This is nobody's personal.
Yeah, I
Well,
was
the
about to
police are-
say, I'm not comfortable.
No, but you brought up a personal person.
I'm not
I
comfortable
don't want, I
answering.
don't want that,
Yeah.
I don't want that out here.
Yeah,
This is a budget hearing. Let's stay focused on the budget. If there's a situation there, Rich, you can pick up the phone and speak.
however, I'm going to just, since that scenario was portrayed, I'm just going to say, for the sake of the people watching, anyone who is the victim of a crime should call 911, not someone's personal cell phone number.
See.
911 is the call, is the way to get the police immediately to respond. If there's a problem, we'll handle it. But no one should be encouraged to call anyone but 911 if they witness a crime or are the victim of a crime.
Well, an hour and a half later, I had a call.
Right, so
And then
let's move
another
on. I'm
person
in the
said
traffic
situation. All
enforcement.
right, I have one more question and that's it. I gotta
Okay.
leave.
Go ahead.
On 12/12/24, I sent Director Shea asking for information contained, let me put my glasses on, containing the below concerns. We sent you a list of concerns. You have not answered them. And I know the other council people are interested in these problems and we'd like an answer. And you had said at a meeting the other day, you have to go to the BA's office. No, you don't have to go to the BA's office. You're the boss. And the people want answers. We want to know what's going on. And we'd like you to reply to this, to the questions we asked.
Okay, I know we had a closed session too. Some things were addressed there, but we can always set up another meeting if none of your concerns was addressed at that meeting. I know you were there, so send it over to me, Rich, exactly what you want, because we did have a closed session with them and certain things were addressed. So the next thing we go on in traffic enforcement. Come on.
Council President,
Councilman,
so we do that. I just wanted a more council persons delay present at 1:52 PM. So we now have 4 council members present.
Just before we left PD, if I could ask a couple more questions. You obviously mentioned the arrive, and I know something we've talked about, and we have the 2 days. Is there anything in the budget that the city could put in to ensure that we can expand to more days and more hours if the Attorney General's office is willing to expand upon it?
Yeah, I'll just, no, we have the resources, because like our offices are out there anyway. Basically, all Arrive means is that we're chauffeuring the social worker, because the crisis team was out there anyway. And if we needed them, they were out there. But through Arrive, we partner up. Now we're driving that social worker around while they do their thing. We've told both the Attorney General's office and the hospital, we will support as much as they want. If they can do it 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, we will support it. If we ever get that, which I doubt, maybe we would ask, to increase the budget a little, but we're comfortable that we have the people right now. She's doing it on a pilot program using our training units, personnel that are highly trained. We can always come up with the people to do that if we have to. I think it's going to be more a question of their resources to provide people.
And then, given, some of the declines in the number of sworn officers, has there been any redeployment of officers to foot patrols and kind of community policing and generally the patrol division versus, other uses of the officers?
Our priority is always, and our minimum manning, the first thing we have to do is answer the radio and provide. So our minimum manning is 6 cars per unit. Now, about 2 years ago, during the intense conversation about policing in America and deconfliction and everything, we switched from 1 officer cars to 2 officer. We've seen a huge benefit from that as far as less negative things starting, less things beginning to grow, less aggressive situations getting out of control. So we're going to continue that program of having 2 officers. Every car we put out has 2 officers in it. When we have extra officers, we put them out on foot patrol once the cars are filled. And when we identify a location that absolutely needs the foot patrol to handle it, like downtown's Newark Avenue, and stuff like that, we will put people out there on foot patrol. But the first priority is always filling those 6 response cars so that we can handle the radio runs.
Sure. And to what extent are we able to increase deployments for the traffic, for not just of sworn officers in the traffic division, to increase the amount of traffic enforcement the city can do?
Want to handle that?
This is for the officers to them, so I just, okay.
Yeah, kind of grab at them. So we have which is Lieutenant Travis Franklin, that helps with the enforcement there. And, the boulevard is handled by the county, so they normally do it there. So if we get like high areas of volume, like if you guys reported or community do, we put the radar out there now so that we can see where we would need to enforce more, where they're speeding, when kids are trying to go to school, some of those high traffic areas. We now invested in the radar system so we can see how many cars are going through, so that it'll help. So right now, we don't have a police officers that's designated just to traffic. You have the traffic investigators that go out if there's a car crash or accident that's with any car in the city, that they address that particular part. But if we have to enforce after any of the numbers come in high or reported, we then send officers over to those areas.
Sure.
So Travis basically has the authority to pull officers from a district if he identifies a condition that needs correction.
I was going to ask, regarding off-duty assignments, how are we assigning those assignments? Are we doing it randomly? Like, can we put it through a computer system instead of like traditional methods? Would that be something that you guys would be amenable towards?
Yeah, we've
You're to pass an ordinance saying, off-duty assignments have to be put through a randomizer, or
They don't go to a randomizer. It's a list, and they go in order on the list
based off of
seniority.
Okay.
Based off of seniority. So they go in order down the list. They used to do it with a pick system. There was a lot of corruption around that. We changed it. Now we have civilians in charge. They go right down the list. If you're called, you're given the opportunity for a job. If you turn it down, then they go to the next name and they come back to you. Now, the problem is some jobs are more lucrative than others, and some officers want those and don't want the others. And that's not going to happen under this system, because when your name comes up, you're going to get offered whatever job is available. So we constantly have complaining about, oh, I didn't get this job, I got that job. But this is the system we put in place after the problems we had with corruption around the off-duty. And it's as random as can be. When here's a list of your names, someone calls in for a job, we call you and say, we have an off-duty job at 7 o'clock tomorrow here. You either say yes or no. If you say no, we move to the next name. And it'll move around back to you again. But any of the complaints that come about it, when we dig into them, we find it's people who are trying to manipulate the system to get the more lucrative jobs. And no, it's just pure luck. If your name comes up when the lucrative job comes in, you get it. Now, if nobody will take a job, you can go on this secondary list of people. You can call me if you can't find anybody to take a job. That tends to be our younger officers who want, they're younger, they're stronger, they're willing to work on their 3 days off. They can end up getting extra jobs only because they're willing to come in at a moment's notice, but they don't go to that secondary list unless nobody's taking it off the primary list.
Just because I was going to say, we just graduated 5 officers the other day. There's obviously a recruitment crisis, and I'm not sure why that is. Is it based off of the contract that you have to go off of seniority? Is it departmental policy? Like, what is the, where is the origin source of this policy?
So just to grab at that, seniority makes it as fair as you can all the way across the board, because a PO can work it, a supervisor can work it, and it's anyone that can work the job. Everyone is just one less. It's not, I'm a boss and I get it because you have a higher rank. We do not do it that way. To speak about the system, the problem becomes where the second emergency list comes in at, what happens when you have an emergency in the middle of the night? The machine can't kick it out and say, there's a water main break, or the light pole, or public service and things like that. So we put it together where an emergency list comes and say, I can find someone to help with assist. Because right now, what we do when emergency comes, we call whatever that district is and take a car off the street to protect the incident that we have going on, the emergency, and then we get someone over there to off duty so we can send them back to patrol. So we do the seniority because it's all the way from a captain all the way down to a PO that works all of these jobs. When you get the 5, like you said, we just have 5 that graduate, 5 that just hit the East District, that finished with their 6 months training, that hit the district. We don't have huge numbers with there, but we do make them wait a certain amount of time before they can work off duty because we feel like they should learn the job before just working off duty.
Also, I don't know if this was touched on, regarding like emotionally distressed people. Like I know sometimes, they can be a danger to themselves and a danger to others, but do we always have to send like the cavalry, in terms of like ESU? Because it just, I don't know if that's like the most productive or conducive way to de-escalate something. And I know it's probably to protect people's lives, but when you send that kind of response, I know, and you've stood out there for hours to try to de-escalate the situation, but I don't know, having all those people, the boys with the big toys, like come out it's intimidating. That's what I'm saying is, I don't know if that's the best way to respond, but maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, that
It just is intimidating to me as as a layperson, and I just, I want to know what.
I understand, but like persons in crisis calls are some of the most dangerous calls we get, and that response has been tailored and developed over decades. New York City responds to every emotionally disturbed person with 2 cars, a supervisor, emergency service, and an ambulance before they respond. That our medical personnel will not respond until the situation is secured. We send a car, a supervisor, an emergency service rolls toward the job, if they can, if they're not called off. The Attorney General reviewed our procedure and thinks it's better than most people in New Jersey because we demand that supervisor immediately respond, along with the officers. The bottom line is, they're very unpredictable, jobs, and having resources there prevents it most times from getting out of control. As opposed, I know it looks counterintuitive, but the truth is that by getting there, being able to control the scene, we reduce the number of negative interactions that we have with persons of crisis, not the other way around. And our numbers bear that out. And again, the director and I went to a full meeting with the Attorney General's office about this, and they were shocked at, number one, how much data we have around what we're doing, and number 2, how few times we actually have to use force, despite how bad it looks, how few times we actually have to use it by our tactics. So we all wish, I say all the time, I wish I was not in the person in crisis business. I wish I could pull my officers out of it and it could be handled solely by medical, and psychological personnel. But unfortunately, the medical and psychological fields have decided that they will not respond, understandably, until police officers declare the scene secure and no danger to anyone. And then they'll come. So we are going to be responding to these jobs for the foreseeable future, and the way we do it is the best way we can come up with. It's impossible to tell. I mean, we had one today that someone just walked in and said their elderly parent or elderly relative is becoming less responsive, and they'd like what they call a health and wellness check. When we got there, the person was violent and barricaded the door with a refrigerator against us. Thankfully, having enough people there meant we can cover the windows, we can cover the doors, we can evacuate people, from the surrounding things, all the things that we have to do. And it was resolved peacefully. and fairly quick. Supervisor is there immediately to take command, to call for crisis communicators, everything else. And we reached out to the attorney general, to the prosecutor's office. We reach out. We have a whole procedure we follow. The last one, we had one yesterday, somebody with a warrant. We handle this job all the time, a very minor warrant. We should have been able to just escort him into court, do some paperwork with him, let him leave. Instead, it turned into a barricade on a roof, threatening to jump off a roof because the person was more in crisis than could have been anticipated based on the information we had. Again, we brought it to a successful conclusion, but that required emergency service deploying the anti-fall equipment, in case the man jumped, et cetera, et cetera. So we found it's better to have it there. And that's going to be our response for the foreseeable future, though we understand the concerns.
I don't discount everything you're saying. I'm just saying if there are advances in technology, non-lethal advances in protocol that we can continuously learn from, that we don't rest on, the laurels of past protocol, and that we continue to find a better way, because I don't think it's fair to the EDP, and it's not fair to the police officer to put them in that kind of situation. It's just, that's the situation. It is what it is, and we want to find a way to resolve it. And you are saying it's the best way, but I think that we need to perpetually look for a better solution.
I agree, Councilman. I will promise you we will. If people come out, we're constantly testing less lethal devices. We're constantly testing equipment. We're constantly testing tactics and seeing what other
negotiation
jurisdictions
methods,
are doing.
all of that.
Yes, we've increased our negotiators, our crisis communicators. Two of the things I'm not sure you were here before that Director Moody and her team have put in this year. One, we now have a separate form that every officer fills out every time they're in contact with a person in crisis, any type of contact, self-initiated, radio run, et cetera. We also document using their body cameras the entire interaction, and we're creating a library of all of those interactions. They're reviewed by our force investigative unit and our training unit. Whether force be used or not, they're reviewed for good tactics, for bad tactics, for lessons learned. We keep a record of how we interact with certain individuals that we interact with continuously, what works, what doesn't work, what communications are effective, what communications are ineffective. And we're also piloting a program where we are sending out to all our officers on their devices, persons in crisis that we interact with frequently, both photos, descriptions, effective techniques, dangers.
Do we have family members on that list?
We don't give family members out to every police officer, but yes, we know who we can contact. Medical personnel that have had success. We're starting to document all of that. And again, we're keeping all of that video in a library so that if a family has a question about how we interacted with a person in crisis, we're now going to be able to bring them in and review the video with them, as long as there's no criminal investigations going on. And they're going to be able to see all of that. So we started doing that this year, and we're going to be moving forward with it. We have a weekly meeting, and our Arrive Together personnel are invited to attend that meeting. Sometimes they do, sometimes they're busy.
Which meeting is this? Sorry.
We have a weekly meeting where we review all our interactions with persons in crisis for the previous week.
Do we have information where that is and what time that is?
Well, that's just us in the Arrive Together program, but we'll get you information if you'd like to attend one and see what it looks like.
And
They're not open to the public right now because you run into HIPAA laws and everything else. The persons in crisis are protected. Their information is protected.
would you commit to meeting with, and we spoke about this in closed session, but I just want to get it on the record that you would meet with NJ Together regarding the Arrive Together program. So
I'll meet with anyone about it, except like I said, I can't share certain information about individuals.
okay.
Okay, let's move to traffic. Come on.
And you can do the numbers. Okay, traffic division. We got a cover page, page 2. Parking enforcement, responsible for the management and operation on and off street parking, enforcement of applicable laws, ordinances, and regulations as to the parking of vehicles within the city of Jersey City. The division is also responsible for the promotion of free movement of vehicular traffic and subsequent relief of congestion on city streets during critical incidents or events such as parades or unplanned events such as demonstrations, hereby improving the conditions affecting public safety and the welfare of our residents therein. Our goal is to further expand and streamline the services provided to our residents through the use of technology, proper staffing, and innovative problem-solving strategies. The division is responsible for the enforcement of all parking violations covered under New Jersey Title 39 and Jersey City Municipal Ordinances under Chapter 332, and is also responsible for the issuance and maintenance of records pertaining to residential parking permits, and utilizes vehicle integrated license plate reader software to assist in enforcement efforts. The division is responsible for the issuance and maintenance of records pertaining emergency no parking signs, utilized for construction projects and special events, operates and maintains over 1,700 metered parking spaces citywide, recently implemented and updated the Park Mobile digital parking system, and maintains 11 municipal parking lots with 426 metered or permit-only spaces. Next, page 3 is following the same pattern we use with the police department, the budget analysis for parking enforcement.
As you were saying, just with the hiring, last year, we had 50 employees that was inside of parking enforcement. Right now, we have that number up to 75. And of course, we would need more because once they take leaves and everything else, we want to be able to continue to cover all, be up to 75 so far. Thanks to you guys in the budget department assisting us there.
It's on page.
So now when it comes to that division though, I know during school time, like, okay, when school is over, you lose those employees, correct? How does that happen?
Well, we're talking about the parking enforcers that maintain the streets,
Yeah,
meaning the ticketing and stuff.
right, I'm talking about,
Those guys.
so you keep them all year round? They don't,
Yes, no, they all year round.
they are all year round.
Yes, because they have that particular one right now, and they have the projects that's down here. They are on streets to make sure that they're enforcing and none of the double park cars. Here, General Square, certain areas we have that we put out there to do it, but they are all year round. It's just the crossing guards that's part-time.
Tying into what we mentioned before, the crossing guards have the option to apply for the traffic, like when school year ends and they're no longer employed, they have the option to apply for one of these available jobs in the
They
traffic
do.
enforcement division.
Are they aware of that?
Yes, they are. However, most of them choose not to because they have their own income requirements that they don't want to exceed.
What are we doing about the WhatsApp? The WhatsApp is like a mess. It's a dumpster fire. Can we find another app to? Yeah, like
We are looking into another one. Yes, the original developer of that, it was very successful, but the original developer is somewhere in the Ukraine.
in the Ukraine.
Somewhere in the Ukraine has
What is he doing?
has returned to
I don't
the
wanna know,
Ukraine.
actually.
We don't want to know anymore. I agree. So Chris's ability to contact him has degenerated. And yes, we're looking into, are there other apps that would provide us with the same type of responsiveness for our citizens?
Okay, because that's been a frequent.
Great, yes,
complaint.
because we had several people who used it very effectively and they were almost neighborhood watch, keeping an eye on things, and it was great, but we've lost some of that because again, the developer who was wonderful at the beginning and who was very responsive and excellent, I'm not sure what he's doing in the Ukraine, but he has returned to the Ukraine.
Do we have a timeline on when that would
Oh, right.
happen? A new app?
So we do not, but what we do, because so the public can know that the WhatsApp still works. The parking enforcement still answers to that. When you send a call through that app, the parking enforcers still do answer to that. It's just him.
It's not as good because we don't.
Right, so the 24 hours we're doing, as long as parking is working, they are working with the WhatsApp to be able to do it until he shuts us off.
If you can get parking enforcement to answer their phone, maybe you get something done.
Okay, next page, page 4 is our table of organization. It's just the broken out where we have people employed. One thing we'd like you to, an initiative that we did this year, the scofflaw booting. We increased that to 10 positions. We have 5 open right now, but we have very much increased our use of the booting because one of the biggest problems we had is we were issuing summonses and they were being ignored. and nobody was going down to the courts. So now using the license plate readers in conjunction with the booting, we are going after anyone who has, what is it, 3 or more? Yeah, 3 or more open summonses that are overdue. And once they're booted, they have to pay them. They can no longer like go court date, and keep dragging it out for years because they had an opportunity to do that and failed to. So that booting unit is becoming very successful.
I think that's a great initiative. I see a lot of license plates from like every state imaginable when I'm in the Heights, and I'm just wondering, are these people even residents? That they have a Florida or like Ohio or Pennsylvania plate, and there needs to be more enforcement and then boot and tow if they don't pay those tickets because it's out of control.
Yeah, that's one of the places where we're having success is the out-of-state plates because they used to just be openly scofflawed. They thought nothing could happen to them. So now they're learning. But a lot of them do live here.
Just paying less insurance rates, is that it? Like,
Or they have 2 residences and they have an option to register their vehicle at either one.
okay.
But I just want to make sure finance, based on their presentation, what's in green, they do have funding for with the staffing? Because I know that was like that.
So I looked into this prior. For the parking enforcement officers outside of clerical staff, they have 12 funded supervisors and 60 parking enforcement officers. So 72 in total funded positions in this,
72.
which was carried over from last year. There's no change in budgeted headcount on the enforcement side.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a slight difference of 3 employees. I'm sure I was looking strictly at current titles, so maybe that's why there's a discrepancy, but majority of these positions are funded.
Sure.
Okay, in the interest of time, our key initiatives are similar to last year's, continuing working with the Department of Innovation, trying to expand the zone parking hours downtown, keeping Watts implemented and operable, staffing a minimal number of officers to proactively go out and enforce those scofflaw violators and implement the booting program, and initiating the implementation of the safety stick program to enforce parking violations in those high injury networks. On the next page 6, we have our goals of 2024 and 2025. 2024, the goals kind of go over what we just covered. Implementing and deploying the safety sticks in the higher injury locations, the fixed cameras for enforcing parking. We're partially achieved. We still have work to do there. We're still increasing those areas. Goal 2, creating our specialized units for scofflaw and zone parking. We've created them. We've begun the booting, but we're still looking for more staffing there, and that's a matter of hiring, not a matter of funding. Purchasing vehicles and equipment for more efficiency, we pulled off in 2024. Hiring additional parking officers, we did that, but we'd still like more. Hiring additional dispatchers to cover operational needs for the special units, we'd still like to do. And purchasing and equipment for a more efficient work product, that we've done. We purchased the 6 radar and speed monitoring units to collect and analyze the data and our congestion trends. And we've also purchased the additional boots so that we can go out there and boot more cars. 2025 goals, increase the number of police crash investigators to cover a 24/7 operation. Kind of in line with what the councilman and I were talking about before about the persons in crisis. We have excellent police crash investigators. What we'd like to do is investigate more crashes. We'd like to investigate, in addition to any crash involving death or serious physical injury or a city vehicle, we'd like to extend that. If we have more investigators, we'll start doing more investigations and determine if there's anything we can do to reduce the number of vehicle collisions and crashes. So we'd like to get more people trained and have more investigators. We also, of course, cover the entire Hudson County for the serious fatal accident investigations because our people are the most highly trained. We always want to increase our supervision, increase our school traffic guard staff. That's our eternal. Every year I want 50 more traffic school crossing guards. We pick it up. We can never seem to get to what we need. We lose some, we gain some, but we are always on the lookout. And I will reiterate again, I hope we have a lot of the public watching. Anyone interested in a school crossing guard job, please contact us at the Public Safety Building, and we will accelerate that process for you because we are always willing to hire new school crossing guards. We can always double up on corners if we get extras. And I have many people through the city, as you all know, who'd like us to investigate new corners for crossing guards if we were able to. Purchase updated DWI equipment. That's mandatory. They've changed some of the rules, so we're going to have to purchase new equipment this year for our driving while intoxicated testing. We'll do that. We have to. And complete the deployment of our safety stick enforcement program, allocate resources, and create a unit specifically designated. Want to take the budget changes? Now I'll turn it over for the budget.
Okay, let's put it back. Okay, so we have our overtime line that's there. Of course, we didn't go as much, which is line 103 for us. We are requesting the $400,000. We did pretty good with staying within what we were given last year with the employees that we had come in. The parking enforcers, uniforms is something that because everyone in public safety wears them, we make sure that we keep all uniforms up and current so that they would have the right uniforms there. Line 201 is office supplies. We're just asking for a little bit more there because the supplies and amount of things that they need and cost of the vendors is what's going up. Not so much as we're trying to add stuff. It's just cost it's just ridiculous across the board with that. The tools, as before, we asked for the 25,000, we stayed within, so we only asking for 20. 80 is the wear and repair, that's contractual. I have to give that to the crossing guards. They have to mandate it to get uniforms every single year in September, so I have to. So that's contractual that we have there. 305 is all of your printing of parking signs, right? So last year we asked for 62, and now it's 50 because a lot of the things, the visual, all of those different ones that we have don't need as many. We had some left over, so we never want to ask for more than what we need because there's other areas where we need it. So that part of it, we did not touch. Maintenance is not our contracts, is the regular services that we use. Is the same, again, just cost of the vendor is what went up there that we had on that line. And then it was just the motor vehicles. So because it was very hard for us to get the scooters, so now you guys were able to give us the cars, and I think we got, I want to say about 10 or 12 of those. So it's just the leasing payment that we have that's over at parking. Other than that, it's not really much that we have that we need over at parking.
Did we change out all of the little three-wheelers or like, can we? I mean, just because they don't have any heat, there's,
Right.
you know.
Right, so that was one of the reasons, but what happens is the parts are so expensive, so in a minute, we ain't gonna have none anyway because they all breaking down. So that's why you see the new cars that they're going into so that they're heated. So most of them are going out of service because the parts, by the time you get the parts, you could buy a whole new car, and that's why you see the new vehicles that's there. So most of the cars that do not have that, we done take them off, and DPW have those.
Yeah, those tricycles aren't built for Jersey City roads, I think, and you know, they are dangerous, and I'm sure we got in a lawsuit or two over that in the past. And I just think cars, transitioning that whole fleet into cars is probably the best.
You guys been great. We have been getting new leases, and now we're just waiting for them to come up with some more cars. Making cars has been a back order as well, like the new police cars. That was probably out there for like 2 years before we actually got them. So we did put in a request to get some more of those. So when the vendor has them, they reach out to DPW to let us know.
Tricycles, I call them tricycles. How many tricycles do we have out there?
I think
They're dangerous. They're very dangerous for them.
We have under 12, but I'll get you that number because the cars came in. So now we
Right.
have the cars up, and the Explorers, what the supervisors use. So we're trying to get them out there because if they use them, we don't want nobody to say we didn't clean their street because you don't have a car to follow.
Right.
So you gotta have enough cars to the amount of employees that's coming in.
Do we have foot patrol for, like, let's say areas like Journal Square, everyone's like, you know, double parked improperly, like,
Mhm.
just because when I go to another municipality, parking enforcement officer like comes out from behind the bushes in full camouflage. And they're just like, you have a ticket right before you exit the car.
So the good thing about General Square right here, by the Krispy Kreme, all of that area by the PAP station, you have the parking enforcers that's on foot that we have in that area, McGinley Square, General Square, where the bank is at, where the school is at over there on that side. But you also have the SIDs that's over there as well, which is the sworn officers that's on foot. So it's two sets of enforcement that's out there on foot.
Are you
That's in
sure
McGinley
about that?
Squares and- Yes, and on to those particular locations, some have from Thursday to Sunday, they out there, and I have spoke with the different council people or the city to see what days do they need them, and we have them out there because they paid for that part.
That's why the SID has to hire off-duty cops, because you took all the cops out of Journal Square when we used to have motorcycles and cops. And that's another thing. We have no motorcycles. We have no traffic division. We're a major city and it's an embarrassment. We're the laughing stock of the country right now.
I wonder, is there a way that we can see how many tickets are serviced in those areas? Give us that account, and that will let us know really about the manpower. Is it really being effective when you know how many tickets you're given? So let us know that. That'll stop, to be honest. Okay.
Are you guys resistant to having a motorcycle squad? Or, I mean, like, what's the policy there, in terms of having, it doesn't have to be an exact motorcycle. Now the motorcycles are different, but like, I never understood why it got removed, why it's not coming back. Like, we were supposed to get horses at some point.
Well, I'd love to,
Like-
if I had my choice, I would much rather a mounted unit that we could use in the parks. And there could be more available in the parks and able to move around. But the bottom line,
What's
it's a
the reason
resource, it's a resource issue. We have X number of police officers. We have Y number of priorities for our police officers, preventing violent crime, et cetera, et cetera. We looked all over the police department. We looked at what the persons assigned to what was then a motorcycle squad were doing, and we discovered that most of what they were doing did not directly impact Jersey City. Most of them were doing escorts, on funerals to places. It's what I call, and I've been in policing since 1991. It was a prestige unit. If we had 1,000 police officers, I would consider having 9 on motorcycles who could lead parades and things like that. But when we have less police officers than we need, and we're struggling to make sure we can do our anti-crime initiatives, our traffic initiatives, put foot posts out where people need them, putting people on motorcycles was not efficient. In addition, we had problems with the leadership and with the deployment of that squad. I was involved in a investigation of that squad by an outside law enforcement entity with oversight capabilities over the Jersey City Police Department. And when they questioned members of that squad, well, here it says you were doing a day tour, but you put in a slip for something else. How do you explain this? They said, we work when we feel like it. The supervisor lets us work whenever we want to work. That was the answer under oath in an investigation. So when you added it all together, the disciplinary problems, the lack of accountability, the lack of return to the Jersey City residents on what we were putting in, I made the determination that the officers assigned to that squad would be of much more value, broken up and divided among the 4 districts where they could answer radio runs and handle the crime fighting things. Since then, other than people wanting to see motorcycles around, which I understand at the beginning of parades or something else, I have not seen a reason why I would remove officers from any task they're doing and place them in there. And since then, we have been mandated to put officers into other units, licensing, background investigation. We've received multiple unfunded mandates to put officers into 4 supervisors to just do police licensing for the state of New Jersey, et cetera, et cetera. And the director, the chief, and myself have come up with other priorities like our force investigative unit, our training bureau that requires personnel too. So it's just a low priority to me to have people riding Harley Davidsons around and maybe giving summonses or maybe going to do an escort for somebody outside of Jersey City. I mean, one time when I investigated them, they went and escorted a high school team that's not even in Jersey City from their location in Bergen County to their game in a different county. Never even touched Jersey City.
Oh,
Let me ask you something.
So that's
Director.
just an example. So bottom line, I have no intention of authorizing a reauthorization of that squad at this time.
that's-
Question, just to follow up, I know when I first got elected, there was about 10 or 12 bicycles in the North District in the basement. Each one cost like $4,000. Like, can they use the bicycles and do community policing during the summertime?
Yeah.
That's a request from the constituents that have,
That came up, I'm not sure if you brought it up or some of that came up at the
Yeah.
closed meeting also, the bicycles.
yeah, it might have been
Uh,
Mira, Councilwoman
might have been
Prince
Mira,
Area,
yeah.
Denise.
Might have been
Yeah.
one of the others, or it might have been you, I don't know, but somebody brought it up and we're looking into it. The problem with all these special units, like, so if I want to do a bicycle squad, now I have to train them how to ride a bicycle. It sounds stupid. I know everyone knows how to ride a bicycle, but no, I can't just put a police officer out. I have to train them how to ride the bicycle. Now I lose training days. Everything we do comes with these added requirements that pulls people off of the street. And I'm loath to authorize them in view of, I think, the success we're having in the violent crime fighting, which was always our priority, this administration, was trying to prevent the violent crime, the shootings, the homicides. We're arguing now, and I agree 100%, but now I'm down to trying to figure out a strategy for unattended package theft. And as frustrating as it is, I'd much rather be doing that than murders. So I can't call Amazon and get someone their life back like I can. So like we have our, I'm loath to move the resources from where we have them deployed until we really nail in the gains we've made, which are fragile. And then if we keep increasing the size of the department, we may be able to do, some of these other things.
Director, when you talk about motorcycles, I hate to say this, but you're not from Jersey City. I was part of the motorcycle squad for 6 years. They were fantastic. They kept traffic. They were used for traffic. They were used for many, many things. And the problem you had with them was because supervision and the top levels weren't doing their jobs. So don't talk about motorcycles. They were fantastic. The people loved them and they were great for traffic in the city. And,
Let's touch on fire. Not much time left. We gotta go.
Sorry, just before, I know we don't have a lot of time. Sorry, Director, just briefly before, just two things. One is, from my end, it would be wonderful if a goal of the parking division was to fully staff the open positions. I understand it's difficult if the starting salaries need to be changed. It's just, I get so many complaints and concerns about, lack of parking enforcement. Just for example, guys have been great, but around PS 37 and PS 16, unsafe situations with kids, and we're getting to it now, but it's been pretty regular. And these positions do pay for themselves. So it's always one of those questions of like, look, if we get those officers out there, we can push. And then just the last thing is just to reiterate, I asked it earlier, but I think all of us are just hearing pretty consistent requests for increased traffic enforcement on all types of unsafe driving behavior. And it's, bikers, it's drivers, it's speeding, it's the whole 9 yards. And just as you talked about the importance of saving lives through, prevention of murders, obviously traffic violence can lead to exactly that, right? That when someone dies on the street, they're dead, and then that's it. That's all we can do. So just want to convey to you guys how important both those two things are on my end of increasing parking enforcement, filling those positions, and then significantly increasing traffic enforcement as well.
Yeah, and just, we are in negotiation with the union right now to increase the salaries. But again, that has to be negotiated with the union. We can't do it unilaterally. Fire, Billy? Okay, Fire, Department of Safety Division of Fire, then I'll turn it over to the assistant for the Fire Division. Page 2, you see our budget comparisons. Employee headcount, sworn and civilian.
Director. Yeah, you just turned the
Yeah,
mic.
sorry, the employee headcount, sworn and civilian. The civilian headcount is mostly our fire inspectors, correct, Billy? The employee, so it's mostly sworn officers. We went from 671 to 685. That includes all the sworn employees of the fire department. On page 3, you'll see the public safety director, the fire chief. These 3 boxes are the same size, but obviously operations should be huge. And then training and fire prevention, a small piece of the operation. Our fire division key initiatives: provide training to ensure our personnel are fully prepared, proactive fire prevention, public safety education, and risk mitigation, deliver effective and efficient emergency services, and maintain our ISO Class 1 rating, which we achieved for the first time 2 years ago. In the training piece, we are continuing to build our fire academy, and we're moving our training out in that direction. It's right next to our de-escalation center. Also, as one of our initiatives last year, we created the 2 new fire companies. We went from 26 to 28 for the first time in Jersey City history. We enlarged the size of the department. It had been going down since the 70s. And those 2 are mostly focused on high-rise, operations as Jersey City continues to expand. Next, page 5 are the line items. Bill, you want to take over?
There we go, Bill.
First line item is your salary line item. We were adopted at 75 million. We're requesting 80 for 2025. Most of that is for contractual increases. We're also looking to put a small class on to maintain our staffing levels. Overtime numbers. Last year, you gave us 500,000. We are requesting 1 million. Acting out of title acting costs, we're maintaining. Holiday pay, we're requesting 3 million this year, and that's just based on that's the amount of time that they can sell back. That's increased just based on their salary levels increasing. The seasonal, those are the part-time fire inspectors. All of that money is recuperated through state funds. Office supplies, everything else, we're requesting the same, 15,000 for office supplies. Cleaning supplies, we're remaining the same at 40,000. Our petroleum gas levels for our marine unit, we're remaining at 10,000. Our tools line, we're requesting 170,000 this year, just based on cost increase. Line 214, chemical and medical, we increased a little bit just based on our EMR program. We just reintroduced the first responder program to train every firefighter in Jersey City as a first responder. So this is to equip the fire trucks with the appropriate medical supplies. Line 305, $250 just for very basic printing material. 306, dues subscriptions is $1,000 just for our annual, that's recurring costs. Line 307, our training line, we're asking for 10,000. Line 310, we're asking for 200,000 for the maintenance of our equipment. Line 312, we're asking for 70,000. Line 314, we're asking for 200,000 for contractual services. That's for the cleaning of the PPE gear. We were only allocated $60,000 last year for cleaning our PPE gear, which we have to send out twice a year for professional deep cleaning on that.
What's the reason behind the OT? You had 2024 as 500,000, but it expended 379, and now 2025 is going to be 1 million. And I feel like we're already fully staffed as a fire, the whole fire department. Where does that where does that number double from? Like, why is that number doubling?
I think it's important to remember the overtime number it's a request that we won't spend unless we need it. Obviously, it's not like we don't get it and say, okay, now we have to spend $1 million. You're 100% right. We have increased the department deliberately. When we took over the department, there was an incredible expenditure on overtime. That number was, I'd have to look it up, but it was millions upon millions. And they usually had used it up by June and had to go back for more money. We went the opposite direction. We didn't want people working 48 hours in a row, 30. It's not safe. So we increased the amount of firefighters and fire officers, and we brought the overtime numbers way down. So from 6 to 7 million down to that 300,000 you see now. However, we would like a little cushion. That 300,000 number kind of covers late jobs, fires that happen right at the turnover, so we can't safely remove a company. We have to keep them on the site while the new company comes in and takes over. It accounts for us sometimes bringing people in at major fires. If we have everybody fighting a fire, we might want to bring in a couple companies just to sit around the city in case, God forbid, there's a second fire. Covers things like that. If we get like we've been blessed in the city during my time here, if we get like a Hurricane Sandy, we'll eat up that million really quickly. So we'd like to have a little cushion if we could. So God forbid we get an event like that we're not expecting, one of those black swan events. We're not coming back to you and saying, hey, we didn't budget for this at all. But we doubt we'll have to spend it. We would anticipate probably that overtime number spent coming down a little, not going up. But I wouldn't mind if we budgeted a little more in case of an emergency. And they're very good on the fire side. They do not waste it. We don't waste the money. It's only used when it's absolutely necessary.
With a city this side, how many stations could we have closed at a time?
We never close a fire station.
Ever?
You think companies? Some
Yeah.
stations have multiple companies.
Companies, okay.
Yeah, so we're up to 28. We had 26. We've raised it to 28. We should never close a company. Contractually, one of the deals we made with the firefighters with both unions was we would maintain a certain level of hiring, and they would guarantee that nobody would take off below the numbers required to staff all those companies. We've maintained our hiring. We're still having some challenges getting them to live up to some of the promises that they made in their things. We have a couple ideas for the new contract. Bottom line is, when the fire chief comes to work every day, he has sufficient manpower to man every single company in Jersey City.
Okay.
Now, if people ask him for a day off and he decides to grant it, knowing that that will remove a company, our fire chief is the expert. He has the authority to know whether he really needs all 28 that day, whether maybe it's better not to have somebody come in because they have an emergency, a family emergency, et cetera. But by contract, we have to maintain enough to man all those companies. Now,
Is the fire chief
I
called?
would like to say, remember, when we took over, when we came in 11 years ago, the people before us were routinely blacking out companies and only turning out 19 or 20. We fixed that. We got it from 20 to 22 through pain, to 22 to 24 to 26, and now we're up to 20. Now we're up to 28. On certain days, I don't want to be flip about this, but it seems to happen on weekends or Super Bowl Sunday or other days like that, where you would, where illness seems to coincide with a major event that people would like to stay home and observe. We get a challenge and we might have to knock out one company or two. But since we increased by 2 from the 26, we always have that play in the system, and we still have full coverage around the city.
Okay.
What are the efforts that you guys are doing to diversify the fire department? Do we have any incoming classes? Like, we have top-notch fire department, but I think criticism that I've heard is that it's not diverse enough, or there's not enough happening in terms of recruitment from diverse communities.
We have made major efforts to recruit. I mentioned this before, you weren't here, but we have in terms of the police department and comparing it.
Yeah.
We have made major efforts to recruit. We have had recruiters. We have used our minority firefighters as recruiters. We have went out into schools. We have opened up firehouses for people to come in and apply in the firehouse, so they didn't have to do it from their home, so we could ensure that they didn't make a mistake on the application. We've run into 2 problems all the time. And this is difficult for us to overcome. The first is that, and when we talk to people, more people are willing to be police officers than firefighters, even with the negative things around police. There's an elemental fear of fire. We talk to people and they say, I don't want to be a firefighter. I'm not running into a burning building. There's just a human fear of that. So it takes a lot for us to explain to them just how safe no job is safe, but just what with the efforts we put into equipment, to training, to making sure that you're as safe as possible while you're doing that job. Secondly, historically in the United States, and everybody struggles with this, it is a very family-oriented job. People who are firefighters tend to have had fathers and uncles and aunts and sisters who are firefighters, and they tell their relatives, to get into it, and it moves on. That hurts us as far as diversifying, because it means we continually are getting people out of the same pool, and they're doing better than other people on the civil service test. Now, a new problem we ran into just last test, and we're going to rectify it this test, is the state does the physical testing. And we had successfully recruited and gotten good test scores out of several minority candidates that then failed the physical. And there's no reason they should have failed the physical. And we went back and studied it, and we had to do this in policing too. We had the same struggles when we diversified the police departments. What we discovered was that they weren't failing it because they're not physically fit. They were failing it because they weren't prepared for the tasks that they were going to be asked to do. So now when we go, we will now take our candidates and teach them ahead of time how to pass that. And again, we had to do all this for policing too, as we diversified it. So bottom line, we're making a lot of efforts, but I anticipate it being slower than the success we had in diversifying the police department. Anything you
Well,
want?
let me ask you something. With the police department, when there's not enough, you call police officers in and they get overtime, correct? With the fire department, if there's not enough, they can't call in fire officers to fill in?
Well, we can do one or the other, but when we negotiated the contract, we had a choice. We had to go, and the unions were 100% aware of this and all signed off on these contracts. We said we can either have less firefighters and use overtime to fill the holes. We did not want to do that as an administration because we
Okay.
felt it's safer for them to work their tour, get their appropriate rest, come back in for the next tour. It's safer for them, for our citizens, for everyone. I didn't like the idea that I had people out there on trucks that had been at work for 48 hours, for 48 straight hours. So we committed to hiring a fairly large amount of additional firefighters and to promoting a fairly large amount of additional captains and battalion chiefs. And we negotiated those numbers with the union and we accepted their number. For every position we have, we maintain 5.2 people. So if I need one captain, we have 5.2 captains to ensure that we have that one captain for every tour and to account for days off, emergencies, sick time and stuff like that. But by doing that, we spent our money on hiring people. And we told them, we're not going to do this. If we do this, we're not going to have money available to give people the day off every time they feel like it. You're going to have to commit to having that minimum number of people come in every tour. And they agreed. And they agreed. And we said, if by some chance someone calls in at the last second, we're not going to let you play that game. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it what it is. We're not going to let you play the game of saying, oh yeah, I was coming in, but now I'm not coming in, et cetera, et cetera. You are, and we have enough companies we can do this because again, we created 2 new ones. So I've got some wiggle room in the system. We said you'll maintain your contractual obligations and we'll make sure there's enough people. So I think I know we're better off because like I said, when I took over the fire department, they only had 19 companies. And they were routinely blacking people out. We now have 28. And on a rare occasion, Super Bowl Sunday, Christmas, I anticipate, Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, that I will have a wave of illness. It just seems to work like that. But we will make sure we have enough companies to keep the city safe. If we had to, we would bring in overtime, but we never reached that level. But that would be a major contractual violation by them. And again, we have spent the money ensuring that we have enough firefighters to come in.
How many officers, or not officers, firefighters and or officers would we need in order to cut the overtime to make it? I mean, when you spend overtime, it means that we don't have enough.
No, we still, no,
Officers.
there's some overtime in emergency.
Is there a number?
Services. Some overtime is just baked in. And it's in fire especially, it's when there's a fire that's carrying over from one shift to another. Because it's impossible for me to just say, okay, you stop, leave, and the next people come in. We have to keep continually fighting the fire. So just to switch over from the old tour to the new tour by necessity involves some overtime. Also, if you get like a major fire, and we haven't had that many, but remember when we had earlier this year, the one out by the turnpike that was
Yeah,
like,
turnpike.
it kept jumping and jumping and jumping. We had to call, Billy authorized bringing in like 4 extra companies and extra officers because that was just, we were losing it. With fighting that and protecting the rest of the city, we said, no, we need more people. So we brought in extra people on overtime.
What about
Thankfully, that doesn't happen often, but we have to be ready for it if it does.
the police overtime as well has been a big problem, you know, in terms of the amount.
Yeah, policing is like completely different though, because
I know, it's,
police, we don't have enough. I would much rather do with the police what I,
how many do we need to hire if we're
Yes.
hire, like,
yes,
to get rid of the overtime?
I'm down to, if I could hire 200 officers, I could cut that overtime to almost nothing, but I can't. And so I have this conversation with the fire about like, overtime is not candy we give away. Ideally, we'd have enough employees and we wouldn't need any overtime except for those jobs at the margins, you know, where we have to turn over and stuff like that, because then we're better off. I don't want police officers out there for 12 hours or 18 hours either. It's not good. But we cannot hire the amount of officers we need, whereas in fire, we were able to. So in fire, we increased the numbers to where we didn't need the overtime anymore, and we believe we have a safer, better, more professional product. In policing, we're still struggling to get to that number, of officers. And quite frankly, we don't anticipate it this year. Just based on the pool we have to pull, you know, to hire from. We don't anticipate being able to get to where we need.
But legally, how long can an officer work and how long can a firefighter work legally? Like a truck driver can only drive for so many hours, then they have to pull over by law. So when it comes to police, by law, how long, you know, are they supposed to work? Because I mean, if they burnt out and they going into a situation, I can't see their reflexes being right or favorable. Whereas also with a fireman, if he's burnt out, I can't see his reflexes being, so is there a law
No.
saying, okay, a police officer only could work 12 hours and after that he has to come off?
No, the short answer is no, there's no law or regulation. We would like them to just have to work their regular shifts unless they make an arrest and have to process that arrest, you know, legally and move on and get them home, get them some rest. But there are no regulations. We work to make sure that nobody is working an excessive amount of time, that we spread out the overtime. We make sure we don't order people.
And so with fire too.
I know, yeah, but that's.
So with fire too, there's no set time, I mean, hours that they have to work, like y'all only can work 13 hours a day or what, you know? There's no law, that's what I'm.
Right, because I know he said by law or policy, rather not, meaning what you're saying, for them not to get burnt out. And we look at it as a double shift, which on police side, it would be 17 hours because they work 8.5-hour shifts. And for fire, it's 2 24-hour shifts, which is 48 hours. And that's for the safety reasons, because you don't never want somebody to go past that and be burnt out. But you can do 17 on police and 48 on fire.
But now, okay, I've always been concerned and I've always been advocating for this, but I guess because these unions, you don't have the power to do it. What type of mental health do they go through? Like, do they go, I know when they first hired, they have to go through a mental health evaluation, but once you're hired, it's like there's nothing in place. I know this is union, if I'm still right, union have to negotiate this.
But we have the right to, and we do, you're right, on hiring, everybody has to pass psychological screening. Anyone involved in a traumatic event is sent for psychological screening before they return to work. So if anyone is involved in any type of traumatic event, anything involving death, a fire, we would send them for psychological screening and to be, authorized for return to work. But we don't do routine, like we don't routinely send people every 6 months, or anything like that.
Or every
So
year.
it would be triggered by a precipitating event that we would say, you know what, that's incredibly stressful. Before you come back to work, we would like you to talk to somebody and be psychologically cleared.
But let me ask you something, Director. In order for something like that to happen, could we negotiate that with the unions? I don't know if they will agree to it, but I know they have these union contracts. The only reason why I'm saying that now, it seemed like these positions are stressful, period. I don't care what you said. It seemed like you're always under stress. I mean, to go in to have to protect somebody, to know you're not sure what you're walking into, whether it's a policeman or a fireman, it seemed like it's just stress itself. You know, that's just like a person who is in the medical profession and you deal with people who deal with cancer. After a while, mentally, you have to go somewhere stressful wise because you tired of seeing people pass, die. It just seemed like we always waiting for something to happen. Well, why can't we prevent? That's what I'm saying. It's for their health, if we care about them, you know, to see like, can we negotiate that? This way, nobody would feel like anybody's, taking, filling anybody out. Because I know when you get in certain professions, it's like if you ask for certain things, people like kind of put a label you. They label you just because of certain things you may ask for. Some police officer may want to go through a psychological evaluation because, I mean, just seeing people die or just to see bodies all the time, to me, psychologically, that could mess with you. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. When far as the police, I mean, police and fire, you going into buildings. I mean, you've seen people in conditions that, sometimes you go home, your mental is not right. I'm just saying, is there a way we can negotiate this? Even in their contracts, that they just do like a mental evaluation yearly, because I think it can help everyone involved. Because sometimes you're reacting over a situation that may be something you saw in the past, and it's still on your psyche. I don't know why we can't see this as people. I mean,
I'll
I've been
look
asking
into it. We're in
this since I've
contract.
been in here.
No, we're in negotiations now, so I'll look into whether it's possible.
I mean, it's just mentally, I mean, I think it would help. It
Speak-
don't hurt.
Speaking of stress, where are we with cannabis and law enforcement and or fire? We had a lawsuit this year, we didn't come out on the winning end of that, I believe. The use of cannabis from the police.
No,
What's the policy right now, and are we going to continue to fight that legal battle? Like what,
we have
I mean,
no
I don't
choice.
know.
The fire department, there is no policy because firefighters do not carry weapons. We are not, no one knows whether I'm pro or anti-cannabis. What I am is pro following the law. There is a federal law which no one has addressed at the state level, despite the multiple people saying, oh no. What's happened is we immediately warned when they legalized marijuana in New Jersey, we immediately warned all our law enforcement officers and said, and we weren't the only ones, so did the state police unions, everyone else. We reminded them there is a federal law that says you cannot possess, transfer, or own a weapon, a firearm, if you are a user of a Schedule I narcotic. Marijuana is still a Schedule I narcotic in the federal system. We asked the ATF. They said, absolutely, that guidance is still in effect, even for medical marijuana, never mind for legal marijuana. The ATF has reiterated that one time since. At least 2 people I know of have been arrested based on the fact that they were using marijuana and were in possession of what otherwise would have been a legal firearm, but they were using a Class 1 thing. So we warned all of our officers. Several of them chose to use marijuana, and it was discovered during tests, not that we gave, that the state gave. We're completely, in my opinion, the victims in this, because we took no actions other than following. So the state tested them. The state discovered they were smoking marijuana, which brought them into conflict with this federal law, and we were stuck in the middle of it. Since then, what people think we lost a lawsuit, no. The state continues to act as if we have, quote unquote, fired them for using marijuana and refuses to address the issue about the firearms. Now we are in court getting that addressed, but we have to wait for the state Supreme Court to rule on it. Thankfully, the state is not testing any more of our people, so we're not becoming aware of any other legal conflicts, which again, we only became aware of because the state insisted on testing them. I don't know why. But the federal government, I'm sure people know, still maintains marijuana as a Class 1 narcotic. This year, several people said they were going to change it, but they didn't. They won't. They still do. We have told all those officers, the day the federal government removes marijuana from that Schedule I, we will reinstate you that day because you will no longer be in conflict with these laws. But until then, we need a ruling from the federal government, which is where we're going to end up. So in the meantime, they're on modified duty with no guns, and we've won a couple of them have been terminated because of different reasons. The others are waiting, and I am confident that we are going to, I hate to use the word prevail because we don't want to be here, but our view is going to be validated. And then someone at the state level is going to have to do something about this conflict that they just ignored when they passed the law. It would have been very easy to fix when they passed it, but they just ignored it.
Why would the state test our officers
I
for
have no idea.
narcotics?
The Attorney General is always the one who orders drug testing, always. It's
They
always
came
done
into
under the
Jersey
Attorney
City and
General's
tested our
purview.
cops.
The Attorney General of the state of New Jersey is the person who orders narcotics testing at random for officers, not the individual municipality.
Yeah, he's got to be replaced.
Okay. Think we're about finishing up. Is there, what's left? Go ahead.
The only thing we have left on that for line 316 is the leasing line. The increase on that to 1.2 million is for the training structure down at DPW. Cost of that.
Reminding you of this morning's conversation with DPW that you said you wanted to bring up in the afternoon in regards to enforcement.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Quality of life. We had a conversation with DPW this morning, with the director, because when it comes to sanitation, it's the inspection, that they don't have in DPW, right? But the inspectors are in quality of life. So I brought up, why can't we have both? Really? I understand that quality of life may need the inspectors there, but DPW needs them too. And the director did say from DPW, they do work well when he comes. He's not knocking that, but he does believe that if he had his own inspectors, that probably can help him even the more. He's saying when they work together, they work well, but there are resources and stuff that we are losing because he just don't have his own. That's it. So I am encouraging that we somehow or another get DPW those sanitation inspectors, because we are having a problem with Regency with this trash. So, and I want Jake to know you're doing a fine job. Okay, we're not saying that you're not. We're just trying to do more because our city is growing. That's it. And I think sometimes we don't realize that this city is growing in leaps and bounds, that we have to start really thinking outside the box and seeing how we have to service the whole city. Okay, we have quality of life. I'm not saying shut down quality of life. I want to make it clear, but I'm saying, can we also have inspectors in DPW too? Can we do both? It's like when you're in government, we only could do one thing. We only could do one thing. But I'm just saying, can we do both? And if there's funds there, we just want to make sure that we have it to give some to DPW, because they have vacancies too. It's just how do we alter
And to clarify,
titles? That's all, right? If I got it right.
and to clarify, from finance perspective, DPW did not put in their budget request for those additional inspectors. And so what I reminded is that we were directed years ago for consolidation, everything of the sort, and whether that would be taken under consideration for you guys as a question that came up this morning.
Right, that's it.
Got it.
Because he needs them too. We just got to figure it out.
Problem.
Also, HEDC was here yesterday, and we were discussing construction work on the weekends, and they basically said, call the police. I mean, is this something that if someone is working on the weekends without a valid permit, is that something the police officers are capable of enforcing, writing a summons?
Yes, because we're the only ones working.
Okay,
That's I mean, it's going to fall to us because we're there. So yes, it is the correct thing to do. It doesn't make sense to call a closed HEDC office, call us.
okay. And fire inspectors, do we have enough fire inspectors? Because we recently came under fire from an op-ed over that. There's
So
two for the
there
city.
there is a request in the budget for additional inspectors. We'd like to have 6 full-time. Right now, we have 2. That's only because we had recent departures. Recent, I mean, like last week recent. So So, but yes, there is a request in here for additional inspectors, but
Are there special certifications to become a
yes,
fire
it
inspector?
is a state license that's required through the Division of Community Affairs.
Okay.
So how many did you lose?
Recently, we
Yeah.
lost 2 recently.
And so you lost 2, you have 2. So total you have 4. Totally you had 4.
4 vacancies, yes.
You had 4 before, now we're down.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
what I'm saying. So you need 2. Right. You know what I'm asking, right?
Not mathematicians here.
Yes, we had 4 with 2 vacancies.
2, we need 2.
We had 4 with 2 vacancies. We've always had, we refill, we use the firefighters who have the qualification as per diem employees to fill that because it's hard to fill these because someone has to go get a license to be hired. It's eternally hard to fill. So we fill the gap by our firefighters who have that license working on a per diem basis and filling. So
Okay.
we have plenty of fire inspectors out there. They're just not full-time. Then right now, we lost 2 of our full-time, so now we're down to 2 full-time with 4 full-time vacancies, but we still have plenty of those per diem firefighters coming in and doing it on their time off and filling that gap.
How far in advance of FIFA World Cup do you guys start planning? I know it's in 2026, and then basically will you be,
That's a curveball.
listen, we're here. You guys are here. So,
Now, we attended our first meeting about 3 weeks ago with the state police and the governor. The governor actually chaired it. So that was the first meeting. That was a stakeholders meeting. Jersey City is going to be a huge stakeholder, as I'm sure you're aware. The working groups are now being put together, and we will have representation on all the working groups in addition to being the prime person over the events happening here in Jersey City. One of the events is in Liberty State Park, so it'll be the State Park Police will be the premier agency, but we'll be huge supporting agency for them. Other than that, we'll be in charge of everything here and we'll be supporting all the others.
also, we've seen a lot in the news regarding drones, and I was wondering, does the FAA recently, like a few days ago, put a ban on drone activity in Jersey City and a few other municipalities. Do we have anything in terms of enforcement mechanism for people that might be using drones that, against FAA guidelines or municipal guidelines?
Yeah, listen, it's the Wild West, the drones. Congress hasn't gotten together to do any type of regulation about them. So our enforcement options are very minimal. However, we do have the capabilities, and we've done it in the past when we're having large events or something like that, to make it impossible to fly a zone in certain areas.
Okay.
So we are a member of the federal task force on that. And we also have within our emergency service unit, our own people who are involved in both using and protecting against drones. We have no problem. Thank the Lord. We are not part of the problem with drones yet. They did include us. We're aware of it. We're going to cooperate, obviously, with that and enforce it. But so far, we have not been part of the New Jersey drone problem.
Okay.
All right, with nothing else, may I have a motion to adjourn at 3:18 PM?
Motion.
Motion was made by Council President Waterman, and I'll give the second to Councilperson Saleh. All in favor of the motion to adjourn at 3:18 PM, all council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of here at 3:18 PM. Thank you so much, everyone in attendance and everyone watching at home. As always, teamwork makes the dream work, and stay safe. Happy holidays to everyone. Take care.